The girl remembered the details of the night only in fragments, and the headache and dizziness did not give her the strength to move. Next to her, the heroine found a pale guy. Concerned and horrified, she asked what happened to them, but attempts to put the picture together were unsuccessful. After all, after drinking that glass of wine, she no longer remembered anything. The lady laughed and chatted pleasantly with her aunt. She asked her to stop mocking her. The aunt herself offered to look where the scoundrel had hidden in order to teach him a lesson. The lady asked if her interlocutor saw him slip away. She was offended that he completely ignored her calls. Soon a picture appeared before their eyes. The man was lying on the floor, and the girl took a pose on top as if straddling him. She, being taken by surprise, looked with frightened eyes and made excuses. Madame ordered that woman to be removed from her son. The guard roughly grabbed the girl's hand. Having pulled her out of the room, he unceremoniously threw her on the floor. The lady tried to wake the guy up again. She called him by name, but to no avail. It seemed to her that he was under the influence of drugs. Our heroine fell to her knees exhausted, and the evil woman stood over her. The thought flashed through that Bai Chuan was indeed cunning. Aunt froze in a stupor. A cold shiver ran down her spine, thinking that the trash would use foul tactics to get to the top. There was a ringing blow on the main character's cheek. The aunt shouted, calling her a bad, offensive word. Tears flowed from the poor girl's eyes from pain and resentment. Continuing to scream, the rich lady explained that Lin Mo was a daughter-in-law recognized by the family itself. She believed that Chuan herself was only worthy of becoming someone's mistress, and the girl held her cheek, which was burning from the blow. Giving the order to the guards to beat this shameless woman, the aunt shouted that how dare she touch her son. The girl could not understand what was happening. Several more loud bangs followed. But then suddenly the guard's hand was stopped by Shen, who woke up from the noise. He briefly ordered it to stop. The guy intervened in the mother's conversation, asking why Chuan upset her so much that she deserved such a cruel punishment. The lady standing next to Shen's mother claimed that Bai Chuan drugged him and then he slept with her. The guy coldly answered Lin Mo that this girl could not do this to him. He was sure that she would never do that to him. Shen's mother stood up for Lin Mo. She told her son that she saw everything with her own eyes, and she asked if he believed his mother's words. The aunt claimed that everyone present saw it the same way, and she reminded him that she had warned him a long time ago that Chuan was pretending well and was not as innocent as she seemed. The aunt concluded that the girl came to such tricks in hopes of joining the Mo family. This made her laugh, but suddenly the girl screamed. The guy anxiously asked her what had happened. Lin Mo believed that the girl was very familiar with this kind of trick, and she stated that this was not the first time this had happened. Chuan denied this. The frightened girl ran up to Shen. She asked if he believed her, and she assured that her feelings for him never had anything in common with the others, and she thought that she was not guilty. To this, Shen sharply and with a bit of anger asked a question that made the heroine cry. He asked if she had done this before. Tears rolled uncontrollably from our heroine's eyes. The guy reminded Chuan that he always defended her to his mother. Shen abruptly pulled his hand away. He told the girl that he often quarreled with his mother for her sake, and it came as a surprise to him that she turned out to be the same as other women who had become close to him before. Having embraced Lin, he said his last word that Chuan only loved the wealth of the Mo family. The girl called him to come with her quickly. Having already turned away and leaving, Shen argued that if this vile girl joins the Mo family, it will become a disgrace for all its members. He claimed that he never knew Bai Chuan. The heroine's world collapsed under her feet, and only one question hovered in her thoughts. Why Shen said these offensive words to her? How she wanted it all to be just a nightmare. A voice came from the building saying that in Mo Xingsheng's eyes, concessions made no sense. While she was suffering, she took it for granted. Shen entered the hall and led Chuan by the arm. He asked his mother why she was using the girl as a servant, to which she replied that her son misunderstood her intentions. Madame added that she did it for her own good. She asked, wondering how a woman could not know how to do housework, and she assured me that washing clothes was not that tedious. Mother Sheena compared housework to his work, and she added that her son had lost weight again. The guy smiled and asked if she was going to accept Chuan into their family. Mom interrupted him, saying that she had observed the girl's efforts. She put her hand on her wrist, and she asked if she was holding a grudge. She asked me to speak directly and not to bury grievances in my heart. The girl screamed sharply, removing her hand. She felt her fingers experiencing pain. Chuan apologized, explaining that she had injured her hand. The guy reassured her, saying that his mother had good intentions. In the eyes of the heroine, Ling Mo appeared, showing Chuan how to wash properly. Otherwise her aunt would not be happy if she failed. The girl thought that the guy's mother mocked her and hurt her while he just looked on. If everything is fine with him, it doesn't matter whether she suffers or not. The mother took her son away, saying that Chuan had recently learned to cook, and would Shen want to stay and try her food today? To which he agreed. The aunt with a dissatisfied face ordered the girl to cook something for them. Chuan quietly and timidly agreed. Satisfied, Lin Mo stood next to Shen. She was surprised at the number of dishes the heroine prepared. At the table, Auntie praised Lin Mo, who knows that Shen has not come home all year. She was incredibly sorry that her son had bad taste and did not see her kindness. The man himself praised her attentiveness. To this, the pleased lady said that wasn't what she was supposed to do. Lin turned her gaze to Chuan, and she assured that her cooking was delicious. She reminded her that Shen doesn't eat spicy food and asked why there were no snacks on the table. She claimed that my aunt had recently lost her appetite. The lady froze, opening her mouth and looking at the heroine. To this, Chuan calmly replied that she would fix everything soon. Behind their back, Chuan Ling and her aunt were discussing how her dishes were not as good as the chef's. In return, Lin invited her boss. Since the morning, Chuan had been bullied by her colleagues, insulting her. They said they knew what tricks she used to get to the top of her career. Speaking mockingly, the girls reveal that Sir Seo has invited the group's daughter Lin to dinner today, as they have been in love with each other since childhood. The boss appeared on the threshold. She wondered why they hadn't gotten to work yet. Chuang's colleagues hurried to leave. The heroine began to apologize to Miss Liang, saying that she would start work right away. The boss stopped the girl. She said that this was not necessary and the subordinate could go home to rest. Miss Liang advised Chuan to use this opportunity as she would get married and end up in a rich family. She asked him to put in a good word with Mr. Mo for her and left. In her thoughts, the heroine turned to Shen. Meeting him, she felt like she was at the top. But due to the difference in their social status, everyone calls the girl mean, despite the efforts in her work. The thought crossed her mind that Mo Xingsheng was enjoying her caresses without sacrificing his nobility. She realized how deeply she was mired in this mud with no way to get out of it. But despite the way Mo Xingsheng treated her, Chuan couldn't let him go. After all, she couldn't watch him leave. The girl's world shattered like glass in her mind as she desperately tried to hold on to Shen. The heroine could not hold his hands, and the fragments flew down in multitudes of ice flows. It all turned out to be episodes from a bad book. The heroine looked at its pages with anger. Out of anger, the girl fell on the sofa. She condemned the guy in the book, who was the image of a Chinese CEO. What pissed her off the most was that she thought the heroine liked being bullied, and she was surprised how she put up with this idiot. At that moment, the girl had a strong desire to strangle the author of this short story. An aggressive girl decided to leave a comment on the site, insulting the author of the work in every possible way. Shibaba exhaled with relief, moving away from the computer screen and leaning back in her chair. The next morning, the heroine was awakened by a knock on the door, from which she reluctantly woke up. A guy's voice was heard behind the door. He apologetically said that he was wrong and asked her to open the door. The noise gave the girl a headache. Coming out of sleep, our heroine opened the door with a sweet yawn. Shen met her there with a smile. Before he could say anything, shock froze on the guy's face when he saw the angry expression on the bride's face. Mo Xingsheng was then hit in the face. At the same time, the girl called him offensive words. A blonde guy was sitting by the window behind a laptop. At the same time, he took a sip from his glass. The girl pointed another finger at him and asked him to look at that guy. She thought he was handsome and stylish. Our heroine also looked back to the other side. Another girl admired that the blonde had such a small nose. Shibaba thought to herself, holding a cup of coffee from the machine in her hands. Meanwhile, the guy was answering something quite emotionally on the phone. He asked his interlocutor again, simultaneously abruptly closing the laptop. The blonde jumped up and hurried away. Shibaba noticed that he had forgotten something on the table. She picked up the book and shouted after the guy that he had forgotten his thing on the table. The girl ran out after him into the street to return the forgotten book. She couldn't figure out where he went. She realized that the guy had mixed with the crowd and there was no way to catch up with him. Having stopped, Chuan decided to look at what kind of publication it was. She was surprised by the title of the book, Runaway Bride. She thought it was her own image on the cover. There was a knock on the door. The guy said that he realized that he was wrong, and he asked to open the door and listen to him. The girl tried to hide from the noise under the blanket, pulling it over her head. But the guy insisted on talking. There followed a powerful blow to the nose that even blood sprayed out. This was accompanied by offensive words addressed to the uninvited guest. Suddenly a screen appeared in front of our heroine's face. There it was reported that she had failed to win the sympathy of the hero, and that 50 points had been deducted for this. Chuan hurried to close the doors, and the guy hit them. The girl said that she probably opened the door incorrectly. Having already clicked the lock, she leaned back against the tree, still not understanding what was happening around her. But then her eyes widened in surprise. Pink blanket, pink table, pink chair. She couldn't why her room suddenly turned into this. Chuan guessed that she was still sleeping, and then it turned out that she was haunted by ghosts. The girl hurried to hide her head under the blanket, trembling and pouring out a cold sweat of fear. But the voice told her that he was a multi-billion-dollar noble and elite gaming system. Chuan was informed that she could only return to her world by completing the story missions of Runaway Bride. The girl asked if this was the novella she criticized last night. The system reported that for the first entry they give 100 points. They are removed for passing slowly. If the value is 0, the heroine returns to the starting point, and 50 of them have already been lost. There was a knock at the door. The guy asked Bai Chuan what she meant. The girl realized that they were talking to her. The system confirmed her guesses, and she said that now she was the main character, and the man behind the door was her lover, and that her first mission is to forgive and return to him. The girl began to cry hysterically. She screamed in protest that she would never do such a thing. The heroine wondered what if she just died and quit the game. But the system told her that she couldn't get out like that the game will forcibly revive her until she completes the story mission. The guy persistently continued to knock on the door. He assured that he would break it if the girl did not open it for him right away. Chuan decided to open the door to the guy, and shouting angrily, she asked the guest why he was so noisy. He grabbed the girl tightly by the hand, which she had already raised for the next blow. Hanging over her, the guy asked Bai Chuan what was wrong with her today. Our heroine was a little timid. She replied that it was none of his business, and with all her might she hit the guy with her boa constrictor's head in the lower jaw. He flew to the side, and the girl ran away. The heroine ran down the street. The system reported that the girl had just missed a chance to save the relationship, but she replied that she was not Bai Chuan, and that she will not allow ridicule and antics towards her. Tired of running so fast, the girl stopped, catching her breath. She was asking the system what the next mission was. She insisted that she wanted to get this over with quickly. The voice replied that she had read the entire novel and should have guessed it herself. This surprised her. After all, it turned out that she needed to come to terms with her two-faced rival. The system confirmed the correctness of her guesses. The girl screamed that she hated girl fights, especially with bitches. In a fit of rage, she began to sway from side to side, kicking the doors. She asked what if she lost all the points and went back to the beginning of the game. After all, it turned out that progress in this world still depended only on herself. The girl jumped on one leg, hitting herself painfully with the other. She was surprised that it was just a game, but then why was the pain real? Suddenly she noticed a shadow. The guy was annoyed that the girl noticed him, and she attacked him with a running start. The blonde didn't even have time to turn his head before he was knocked down. Holding him by the t-shirt, Chuan asked why he was following her and who sent him. The girl tensed because it seemed to her that she had already seen him somewhere before. The blonde grabbed his hand, tearing it away from his clothes. He insisted that it was just a misunderstanding, that he didn't follow her, and that he had been here for a long time, and they met completely by chance. The girl was calling on the phone. She said that in this case, contact the police to find out who misunderstood whom. The blonde thought with his eyes closed that this destructive girl was completely different from the cutie she was just a couple of days ago. He agreed with the truth of a saying he had heard somewhere. The guy grabbed the girl's hand with the phone. He asked her to stop and not make emotional, hasty decisions. He said that they had never quarreled with her before, and he suggested not to contact the police over such a trifle. The girl angrily demanded to let go of her hand, and she threatened that he might regret it. Our heroine thought that in any case the guy should be one of the villains in the story, and she must check which of them was following her. She regretted that she had not read carefully and had already forgotten the subtleties of the plot. Then an elegant foot in a white shoe stepped onto the road. The blonde was surprised that the pure and naive Bai Chuan found herself a lover so quickly. Giggling, Lin Mo assured that if she were Shen, she would be angry if she learned this. Snorting as she exhaled, our heroine elbowed the guy in the chest. He clearly didn't expect this and flew back. Chuan said that if the girl was looking for Mo Xingsheng, then he was not here. The blonde replied that she heard that he was allegedly looking for her, and she assumed that he got angry when he saw Chuan with this guy and left. Our heroine demanded that her interlocutor watch her words, and she insisted that she and this gentleman had nothing to do with each other. She also insisted that she had already broken up with Mo Xingsheng. The girl turned around and showed the blonde her fist. She demanded that he leave here, but then she realized that her true personality had come out, and that could be the end of the game. The guy thought about it. He said as if to himself that the girl was right, that such a handsome man could not be her lover. Chuan demanded that he shut up. The blonde shouted that he had to somehow explain his innocence. The girl insisted that this did not seem like an explanation. She claimed that he was simply confirming her words. The blonde screamed that since the girl had a lover, then she must bring him to Shen and explain everything so that he will finally break up with her. She insisted that just looking at her face irritated her. The girl said that Shen was the most charming man in the world, and that such a woman was unworthy of him. The guy watched from the side as passions flared up. He found this sight creepy, and he believed that it would be better for the girl to dodge that deadly blow. And from behind, another character was approaching our trio. It was Mo Xingsheng. The girl, not seeing everything around her, continued to sort things out. The blonde was already cowering under the pressure of her rival. The girl fell to the ground. She asked Chuan to forgive her for being rude and saying something to her that made her so angry. And she said that she was right that she hit her in retaliation. Our heroine said that if the blonde had been polite, this would not have happened. At some point, it seemed to her that a chill ran down her spine. After all, someone was standing behind her. Taking a step, the girl's back collided with Shen's torso. He dodged and stepped aside. The guy took off his jacket and threw it over the blonde's shoulders. He asked Lin Mo what happened. She replied that she just wanted to persuade Bai Chuan to get back together. Tears flowed down the girl's cheeks. She assured that when she met her with a new partner, she could not restrain herself and was rude. In response, she was hit. She insisted that it was only her fault and that she was sorry. The blonde told the girl that it would be difficult for her to explain this. The girl threatened that in this case she would end everything at once. It seemed that she was just about to ignite from the emotions that overwhelmed her. Bai Chuan shouted that everything was correct, and she insisted that the blonde was in her way, which is why she slapped her. Xingsheng was angry. He assured that the girl had been kind before, and he wondered how she became like this. The man asked her not to worry, and he promised that he would not approach her again. The system reported that the mission was failed, and she asked me to get ready before restarting. The girl screamed that she understood, and the automatic voice demanded to be silent. The blonde standing behind our heroine decided that she had gone crazy. The system soon reported a restart. Bai Chuan told the blonde that they did not know each other. She regretted having to reboot without asking the guy's name. The girl assumed at their next meeting that he would not even remember what happened today. She asked the blonde to take care of himself. The guy was completely confused. The blonde saw a blinding bright light. He covered his eyes with his hand. The question flashed through his mind as to who that girl really was. An electronic voice announced that the story had been loaded and the game had begun. Our heroine decided for herself that this time she would complete her mission on the first try. The girl painted her lips with a light shade of lipstick. Then I applied eyeshadow to my eyelids. Looking at her reflection in the mirror, she was quite pleased with the result. And she said that it was possible to fall in love with yourself. The guy said that they had not seen each other for a long time. He asked if everything was fine with the girl. She replied that everything was wonderful with her, and I forwarded the same question to him. Shen told her that he missed her a lot. Bai Chuan replied that she knew this. The guy said that Lin Mo was like a sister to him, and that day he did not expect such words from her. The girl assured that he did not need to explain anything, and to herself she thought about the possibility of skipping the plot and skipping this awkward and useless conversation. An automatic voice reported that the heroine was acting rebelliously while playing this game. The girl replied that if she were a rebel, she would no longer be standing here with Shen. The guy asked Chuan to forgive him. He assured that she would forever be in his heart, and that no one will replace her. And with these words, he touched her head with his forehead. Shen began to worry about the girl, whether she was sick. He even felt her head, checking if she had a fever. The girl asked herself how she could feel comfort around a stranger. Bai Chuan assured that she was fine, and she asked him what he was going to do with Lin Mo. The guy replied that he had already discussed everything with her, and he said that she cried for a long time and was upset. Xing Sheng assured that the girl was quite understanding and should soon accept it. Chuan thought that if she wanted to complete the task, she needed to calm Shen down. And when there is a task with Lin Mo, Xing Sheng will be nearby. And then the blonde will be obliged to shake her hand, even without wanting to. The guy said that last time he didn't take her feelings into account. He insisted that he had thought a lot about his behavior, and he admitted that he had made a lot of mistakes. He kissed her hand, asking her to forgive him. Our heroine's feeling of delight went off scale, and an expression of love appeared in the eyes. The system asked not to shout like that. The girl was surprised how it was possible to create such an ideal man that it was difficult not to fall in love with him. The voice reminded me that the heroine didn't say that last time. Chuan scratched her head. She said that when they discussed it, everything fell into place. The girl, smiling and laughing slightly, assured that she was very bored. Mo Xingsheng hugged and pressed his beloved to his chest with feeling. For our heroine, it was a complete shock. Through the guy's clothes, Bai Chuan quite unexpectedly felt how muscular his torso was. She realized with delight that his body must have been beautiful, and it even seemed to her that her nose was bleeding from the excess of emotions. Shen pressed his head against the girl's chest, and his hand slid under her clothes. Our heroine cursed to herself. She thought things were escalating too quickly, and with all her strength she threw the guy over the sofa, calling him a scoundrel. She asked herself why a romantic story couldn't be innocent. Our heroine ran down the street and cried. She screamed that it was too much for the forever lonely girl. She asked if she could lose her innocence in the game, but then that same blonde stood in her way. Bai Chuan almost collided with him. The guy recognized his neighbor. They unanimously asked whether their interlocutor remembered them. The girl was shocked. She told the system that the man remembered her. The program replied that this was impossible. The stranger asked with a surprised look if the girl's name was Bai Chuan. Our heroine began to sweat. The girl timidly answered the guy's question that it seemed like she was. The stranger extended his hand and pointed his index finger down the alley. The man asked if Bai Chuan was going in that direction. The girl replied that she had come across an unpleasant person in that alley, and that this time she won't go there. The guy asked in surprise what it meant this time. The girl looked at the guy. Bai Chuan asked the stranger if he saw her hit Ling Mo. The guy was shocked. The stranger asked the girl if these events were not just a dream. In horror, the man grabbed his hair and said that the date was wrong. The stranger thought to himself that he was writing a diary, and that since he met Bai Chuan, time had stopped and now every day it was the 22nd. The girl told the stranger that the events of yesterday were repeated today and it was not a dream. The guy had sweat on his face. The girl said that if he doesn't believe, he can be convinced of the veracity of her words when Lin Mo comes. The stranger turned around and actually saw Lin Mo. The blonde turned to the girl and asked what Bai Chuan was doing here and where Shen was. The guy was scared. He slowly walked backwards away from the girls and asked if this was possible. The blonde asked Bai Chuan who this guy was. Lin Mo asked if this young man was the girl's lover. The stranger was outraged that he was called that. The guy grabbed Bai Chuan by the shoulders and shook him. The stranger shouted at the girl, demanding that she explain what was happening. The girl felt dizzy. She removed the stranger's hands and asked him to stop. Bai Chuan grabbed the guy's clothes. She said that this day was really repeating because of her and the girl did not know why it was like that. Bai Chuan held the stranger by the collar. The girl explained to the blonde that until she completes the mission, the day will repeat itself over and over again endlessly. The guy fell into despair. The stranger grabbed his head, and he clarified with the girl that he was really living through a time loop because of her. The girl replied that he was right. Bai Chuan thought to herself that this game was a complete deception, and there was nothing she could do herself. Lin Mo turned to the girl. The girl asked Bai Chuan where Shen was now. The girl grinned evilly. Bai Chuan looked sarcastically towards the blonde. Our heroine pointed her finger at the blonde. The girl said that one of her tasks was to make friends with Lin Mo, but it seemed that this was simply impossible. Bai Chuan raised her hand to slap the blonde in the face. The girl said that she would now show the stranger how everything happened. The girl opened her eyes. She thought that this stranger, whom the game could not control, could help her. Bai Chuan got out of bed. The girl thought that she should give the stranger a chance to survive the time rollback himself. The girl was applying makeup. She thought that in her world it was difficult to find allies who could understand her. She changed into a beautiful outfit complementing her light makeup with a stylish look. Bai Chuan decided that she wanted to form an alliance with that stranger. Our heroine approached the door. She told herself that now she would need to calm down Xingshen and then slip away from him. The girl opened the door. She was very surprised. The heroine did not expect such a guest. On the threshold in front of her stood the stranger whom she had seen the previous day. The man grabbed the girl's hand. The blonde told Bai Chuan that they were neighbors. The girl walked into Song Qian's apartment. The man politely told the guest to make her feel at home. The girl saw notes nailed to the wall. Bai Chuan asked the stranger if the man was from the police. The guy replied that he used to work there. On the shelf stood a gold cup with the word hero engraved on it. The girl asked her neighbor what he was doing now. The guy replied that he was a detective. Bai Chuan asked who ordered the guy to follow her. The stranger asked if he could avoid this question. The girl came very close to the guy. She said they have been through a lot together and need to take a step forward in their relationship, and that they should become more honest with each other. The stranger sighed heavily. The guy replied that the girl's future mother-in-law ordered to keep an eye on Bai Chuan. The girl remembered that evil woman. She realized with disgust that they were talking about Madame Mo. Bai Chuan extended her hand and invited the blonde to cooperate. He scratched his chin and asked her when they managed to become partners. The girl replied that the stranger himself came to her apartment of his own free will. Then, after thinking a little, the guy agreed to cooperate. But just before that, he wanted to clarify one aspect. The guy asked his partner what tasks she was talking about, and how they were connected to the time loop. Bai Chuan answered her neighbor that she would tell him everything she knew, but some things were difficult to explain in just a few words. The girl invited the blonde to get to know each other better. The guy said his name was Song Qian and insisted that he was a detective. The girl replied that her name was Shi Baba and she was a huge, lazy person. The guy leaned towards his neighbor. Qian said that the girl's name was Bai Chuan, and our heroine replied that she only looked like Mo Xingshen's lover in appearance. Shi Baba sat down on the sofa. The detective thought that the girl really didn't look like the cute Bai Chuan. Qian suggested that the girl was an alien from a parallel world. Shi Baba crossed her arms. The girl shouted to the detective to stop making things up. The girl sat down on the sofa again. Shi Baba explained to the detective that she had entered Bai Chuan's body, and now she needed to complete tasks in order to advance from the 22nd. The detective emphasized that the conversation about missions and the time loop sounded incredible. The guy leaned his elbows on the back of the chair. Qian asked the girl if she had any secrets that had not been told. Shi Baba thought that the detective was more difficult to deal with than Mo Xingshen. The girl emphasized that Qian agreed that she was an ordinary person. The girl told the detective that if we didn't find a way to solve everything, the day would remain cyclical. Qian shook the girl's outstretched hand. The detective agreed to help Shi Baba solve the problem. The girl was beside herself with happiness after the detective agreed to help her. Shi Baba smiled. Qian said that he had already seen Xingshen twice. The detective emphasized that the guy's appearance and background were impeccable, and all the girls dreamed of him. The guy closed his eyes. The detective asked the girl why she couldn't handle it. Shi Baba replied that this was the second attempt, and a bastard like Xingshen is not suitable for a strong girl like her. The guy sent the girl out and said that this idea was hopeless. Shi Baba was surprised. Our heroine said that the detective had just agreed to help her. The girl rested her hands on the door. The guy said that Shi Baba failed an easy task twice. The girl replied that if she fails, Qian will forever remain in one day. Shi Baba asked Qian if he was afraid of being stuck in one day. The guy got very angry. The detective removed his hands from the girl and smiled. The guy said that in his experience it would be better to get an advantage at the beginning and finish everything quickly. Shi Baba was surprised by Qian's ability to quickly analyze. The girl asked to explain the detective's train of thought since she herself was already confused. The detective suggested not to wait for Xingshen's apology, but to forgive him immediately. The girl objected. Shi Baba said that he might want to do something with her. The guy replied that the girl could stop Xingshen. The detective asked if they went on dates after reconciliation. Qian suggested that the girl take the initiative and invite Xingshen on an innocent date. Shi Baba agreed with the guy's plan. The detective and the girl heard the elevator arrive. Shi Baba said that this is Xingshen. The girl decided that she needed to hurry, and that she would make every effort this time. Shi Baba left the detective's apartment. Xingshen stood next to the elevator door. The girl called out to the man in the suit. Shen turned around and saw his beloved. She opened her arms wide for a hug. Qian closed the door to his apartment. The detective put his hand over his eyes. The guy said that Shibaba almost blinded him. Xingshen took the girl's hand. The man asks if Shibaba is angry with him. The girl replied that she was impulsive and made mistakes. The couple hugged. Xingshen promised that he would never offend his beloved again. The girl said that she believed her lover's word. The program announced that the girl had successfully made peace with Xingshen and received 50 points. Shibaba moved away from the man. The girl said that it was stuffy here and suggested we take a walk. Xingshen asked where his beloved wanted, and he also stated that he would go with the main heroine. The couple was in the elevator. The girl pressed the button for the first floor. Shibaba said that she wanted to take a walk nearby. The elevator went down to the 5th floor. The girl thought that Lin Mo must be in the area nearby. Xingshen rested his hand on the wall and stood next to the girl. Shibaba experienced a suffocating situation. She wondered why she felt so uncomfortable when the man looked at her with tenderness. The girl asked the guy what he had been doing lately. Xingshen replied that apart from work, he missed his beloved. Shibaba thought that she could not tolerate such an environment. As soon as the doors opened, she flew out of the elevator. The girl noticed that it was quite sunny today, and she thought it was perfect weather for a walk. The guy grabbed the girl by the waist. Xingshen suggested looking at the begonias they planted together in the spring. Shibaba agreed to look at the flowers. The girl had tears on her face. She thought that it was not so easy to be the heroine of a romantic novel. Lin Mo saw Xingshen and his girlfriend walking. The blonde called out to the man from afar. He was surprised by Lin Mo. Xingshen asked why the blonde was here. The girl replied that she was worried about the guy. Xingshen's hand was on Shibaba's shoulder. Ling Mo noticed the hand and became wary. The blonde asked the guy if he had made peace with his lover. Xingshen said that there was no need for Ling Mo to worry about them. Lin Mo hugged the girl. The blonde said that it was because of her that the lovers had a fight, and Chuan misunderstood Xingshen. The yellow-eyed girl asked if Gibai Chuan would forgive her. Devshuka placed her hand on Lin Mo's shoulder. She replied that she understood everything. The blonde accepted forgiveness. Shibaba thought that this time she would regain her role as the main character. The girl waited for Lin Mo to begin her performance. Perrin put his hand on Bai Chuan's shoulder. Xingshen invited his beloved to admire the begonias. The blonde grabbed the guy's hand. Lin Mo wanted to look at the begonias too. The girl asked if she could go with a couple. Bai Chuan turned to the guy. The girl suggested inviting Lin Mo to admire the begonias. The blonde called Bai Chuan good. Lin Mo said that she really likes begonias. Shibaba thought that the girl was only pretending to be calm. The couple walked around in an embrace. There was grass and low trees around. The blonde was behind the lovers. The guy opened the car door. Xingshen gestured to a seat and asked Bai Chuan to sit down. The blonde was the first to sit in the front seat. Lin Mo asked if Bai Chuan would mind her taking her place. The guy was surprised by the girl's action. Bai Chuan hugged the guy. The girl told her lover that Lin Mo was still young, so let her sit where she wants. The guy was pleasantly surprised by his lover's answer and hugged her. Bai Chuan hugged Xingshen back, and she assured that she was not as good as he said about her. The blonde was angry at this result. Shibaba thought that from now on she would irritate Lin Mo in every possible way. The car drove along the highway. The blonde emphasized that this road leads to the hippodrome, where the guy taught her horse riding. Xingshen replied that he remembered this road. The blonde glanced sideways at Bai Chuan. Lin Mo mentioned that she and Xingshen often passed through this place when traveling. The girl sighed heavily. She thought that Ling Mo was hinting that she was Xingshen's childhood sweetheart while Bai Chuan was just a random girl. The guy noticed Bai Chuan's heavy sigh and asked why the girl sighed so much. She replied that she didn't know anything about her lover's past. The guy replied that the past is in the past, and that together with Bai Chuan they will create many good memories in the future. The blonde cursed mentally. Ling Mo thought that she had finally gained Xingshen's attention, and Bai Chuan drew the attention to herself with one phrase. The lovers stood against the backdrop of the mansion, holding hands. The guy offered to help Bai Chuan out of the car. She thanked the guy. The blonde asked why the guy didn't help her get out. Xingshen thought that Ling Mo usually behaves calmly, but today he is capricious. The guy raised his hand. Xingshen was annoyed and replied that Lin Mo had arms and legs, and that the girl could get out of the car herself. The blonde waved her arms. The girl shouted that Bai Chuan could also go out on her own, and the guy helped her. Bai Chuan asked Xingshen not to ignore and help the capricious Lin Mo. The guy replied that he would not spoil the blonde like that. The guy said angrily that Bai Chuan was different from Ling Mo. Sineshni asked not to force him to repeat the words twice. The blonde got out of the car. Lin Mo said that she was just joking and asked the guy not to be so cruel. The girl thought that it was impossible to let Lin Mo relax. The girl turned, winked, and stuck out her tongue, provoking the blonde. The blonde got angry. Bai Chuan thought that she would expose Ling Mo's pretense. The lovers left the girl. Lin Mo shouted the guy's name and asked him to wait for her. The detective was concerned that the partner had not been in contact. Qian assumed that the girl had failed the task again. The guy drew attention to the call that rang in the apartment for which he was waiting. The detective opened the door. His neighbor was standing on the threshold with bags. The guy asked her how it went. The girl, exhausted after a walk, replied that she was damn hungry. And she asked the detective if he had anything to eat. The guy asked what was in her bags. The girl gave the bags to Qian and replied that the bags contained various additives that Xingshen bought Bai Chuan. The detective took out the contents from the bags. The guy said that he had nothing for the girl. She thought sadly who would eat all this. After all, I myself would like something hot. The guy put a glass of water on the table with a crash. The guy irritably emphasized that this was his room. The detective asked the girl to leave the room after she told everything. The girl took a glass of water and took a sip. Shi Baba said that in Xingshen's eyes, Ling Mo has always been a good girl. She said that they arrived at Mo Xingsheng's villa. Lin Mo showed her true nature to force the girl to retreat. The blonde said that Xingshen would be hers in any case, and that a Cinderella like Bai Chuan would not become a princess. She replied that the guy's gaze was focused only on her. The blonde was beside herself with rage. The girl thought that she had insulted Lin Mo before and knew how she feigned anger. The game system notified that Xingshen was nearby, and that he needed to take advantage of this opportunity. Ling Mo hit Bai Chuan. The guy saw what Lin Mo did. The girl fell from the stairs into the arms of her lover. Xingshen shouted his lover's name. The guy was holding Bai Chuan in his hands. Lin Mo ran up to the couple in tears. The girl, holding a glass in her hand, said that now Xingshen knows the true face of Lin Mo. The girl smiled and closed her eyes. She said that today's task was completed perfectly. Bai Chuan thanked the guy for the water. The guy put his hand on his head. He asked if the girl had said that she wanted something hot. She confirmed that she had said that. The girl asked the guy if he wanted to treat her to something like that. The girl's eyes grew dim. The guy said that she tried hard all day long. The girl looked at the blonde. Everything went blurry before her eyes. Qian called the heroine by name. The girl fainted. The guy shouted out the name of the heroine's heads and tried to catch her before she fell. The girl found herself in a dark space. Shi Baba thought that the gaming system had malfunctioned after asking for hot food instead of a glass of water. A screen appeared saying that everything was fine with the system. The system explained that Bai Chuan had little stamina and the girl would sleep for 6 hours. She asked if there was a way to wake up now. The system offered to exchange the 10 accumulated points that the girl received today for 2 increases in physical strength. Shi Baba asked if she could beat Mo Xingsheng. The girl was wearing a tracksuit. The heroine's eyes looked like snakes. The system recommended increasing endurance. The girl reluctantly said that she would try once. Shi Baba pressed the exchange button on the panel. The game system notified about the successful exchange and increase in stamina. The girl opened her blue eyes. Bai Chuan and Qian were very surprised. The guy was holding the girl in his arms. The detective wanted to put his partner on the bed. The guy was surprised by the girl's unexpected awakening. The partners' faces almost touched. The detective blushed a little. The girl screamed in fright, covered her face with her hands and kicked the detective in the stomach. The guy flew several meters away from her. The guy was in tears of pain. The detective asked why the girl was so cruel because he just wanted to put her on the bed. The girl said she was scared because Qian was very close to her. The guy said that she suddenly lost consciousness. The detective asked if everything was okay with the girl's well-being. The girl pretended to tie her head and said dramatically that she was dizzy from lack of blood sugar. The guy spread his hands in bewilderment and asked her to stop pretending. The detective walked towards the kitchen. The guy said that he promised the girl a hot meal. Chan asked her to wait in the bedroom. Cauliflower and mushrooms were on the table. The guy thought that a couple of minutes ago the girl was unconscious and suddenly became cheerful and strong. The guy stood in an apron in front of the sink and wiped a plate. The detective emphasized that Shi Baba is different from Bai Chuan. Qian wondered what the girl's true identity was and where she came from. Qian exhaled heavily, closing his eyes. The guy said that every time a girl fails, he also has to go back to the beginning. The guy turned off the water tap in the sink. The detective said he would investigate the case later and he couldn't keep an eye on the girl forever. In front of the heroine stood a pot of food. Shibaba took a piece of the dish the guy had prepared. The girl thanked Detective Song for his hospitality. The girl was sitting at the table with the blonde man. The guy was holding a glass in his hand. The partners were surprised by an unexpected call on Bai Chuan's phone. The girl remembered that according to the plot, Mo Xingsheng's mother was supposed to call now. She hung up the phone and put it on speakerphone. The girl asked who called her. The voice greeted the girl and said that Madame Mo wanted to invite Bai Chuan to the Mo family mansion. She received a new task for which she could get 200 points. Shibaba said that she expected this. The guy asked what she expected. Qian hoped that this was not a new assignment. The girl replied that it was a new assignment. Shibaba took the cleaver in her hands maniacally. The guy asked in fear whether she wanted to kill Madame Mo or whether she would like her. Our heroine replied that she wanted to kill. The guy slammed his hands on the table and asked the girl to calm down. Shibaba told the detective that she was just joking and Madame Mo needed to be liked. The girl extended her hand to the guy. Shibaba asked to tell all the information about Madame Mo. The detective put his hands on her shoulders and said that he had nothing to say to her. The girl was offended and wanted to leave. Shibaba said that if he fails again, then all the tasks will start from the beginning. The guy raised his hand and asked Chuan to stop. The detective was afraid of this outcome and feigned a smile. The guy said that the girl was right and life was simply overcoming oneself. The guy told everything he knew about Madame Mo's habits and preferences. The detective asked the girl not to ruin everything. The blonde said that he was a victim of circumstances and asked not to be blamed in case of failure. The girl said upset that the detective had no sympathy. She mentioned that Madame Mo was difficult to please. The guy said that they were allies and would give the thing to the girl. He hung a moon-shaped necklace around the girl's neck. Shibaba blushed. The detective explained that this locator will help you get in touch at any time. The guy said that together they will cope with Madame Mo. Shibaba really liked the necklace. It was silver in the shape of the moon. The girl asked how she looked with the jewelry on her neck. The guy said that the necklace suits Shibaba. The girl was delighted and said that she was the heroine's head and deserves it like no one else. The girl said that it was time for her, and that tomorrow she was going to defeat this elderly woman. Shibaba raised her hand and smiled. It was late at night. The moon lit up the sky. The system asked the girl to stop thinking about the detective. Shibaba replied that there was nothing like that, and she was just wondering how the guy remembered everything. The girl said that there was no detective in the original story, and that he could influence the result. Shibaba asked the system to help her sleep. The full moon was not visible through the window. The gaming system agreed to help and told the girl to go to bed. Shibaba thanked the assistant for his cooperation. Events continue the next day. Madame Mo told Ling Mo that Bai Chuan was just an illustrator in their subsidiary company, and that she should not be the one with Xing Shen. The blonde turned to Madame Mo. The woman asked Lin Mo not to worry about Bai Chuan. The door opened and the main character walked in. Madame Mo glared at Bai Chuan. Lin Mo said that the girl was Xing Shen's lover and that this could not be neglected. The blonde asked the servant to bring tea for Bai Chuan. Shibaba thought to herself that she was not the person that Madame Mo and Ling Mo could compete with. The girl was wearing gray jeans, black sneakers, and a dark blue t-shirt. Bai Chuan asked why Madame Mo invited her to the mansion. Madame Mo asked the girl if she was ever dating Xing Shen. The woman thought that, as expected, Bai Chuan did not know anything about etiquette since she sat down without asking permission. Our heroine replied with a grin that Xing Shen, after parting, begged Bai Chuan to return to him. She emphasized that she was the ideal girl for the guy. The girl asked Lin Mo if she agreed with her words. The blonde got angry at Bai Chuan's words and shouted to ask her to repeat her question. Madame Mo asked Bai Chuan if the girl really believed that Xing Shen could not live without her. The woman said that she was nothing more than a toy that would be thrown away as soon as she got tired of it. The girl laughed and replied that she didn't even want to come to Madame Mo's house, and that the woman herself invited Bai Chuan to visit. The woman considered such a statement rude and hit the table with her palm. Ling Mo put her hand on Madame Mo's shoulder and asked Auntie to calm down in a gentle, soothing voice. The girl gloatingly said that she treats Madame the same way a woman treats Bai Chuan. She asked why she was invited here if they considered her a toy that would soon be thrown away. Bai Chuan said that the more you try to separate the lovers, the more they will love each other. The girl asked to leave them alone, and maybe the lover's feelings would then cool down. Bai Chuan offered to give her 300 million, and then the couple would separate and the girl would leave so that Xing Shen would not find his beloved. Madame and Lin Mo were very surprised by the proposal. Madame Mo got angry and shouted that the girl's proposal was impudent, and even if Bai Chuan received the money, he would not be able to use it. Our heroine covered her ears with her fingers and said that she would look again. The girl thought that Madame Mo would not give that kind of money, and that the main thing was that the woman would choose the first option and not interfere in the couple's relationship. The woman looked at Bai Chuan with contempt. Madame Mo said that she would see how long the girl could keep her son with stupid tricks. The servant approached the girl and said that Miss Bai's room was ready and asked her to follow her. Our heroine was confused, because she had just angered her future mother-in-law and did not want to stay in the mansion. The blonde said to himself that she had to spend every day with her auntie in order to see Xing Shen, and she couldn't allow Bai Chuan to appear in the mansion so easily. The blonde took Madame Mo's hand, and she said with worry that Xing Shen would return for dinner, and what does this mean? Lin Mo took auntie's arm and left with her. Madame said that she had a plan and asked the blonde to play along with her. The girl agreed. Madame Mo looked at Bai Chuan angrily. The woman decided that she had to remind the girl how difficult it is to be the wife of a wealthy man, and also emphasized that she noticed that money is just an excuse. The woman decided that she did not want to ruin her relationship with her son because of the girl, and would show Xing Shen Bai Chuan's real face. The girl happily asked how she managed. Bai Chuan said that she wanted to test different outcomes and was ready to start over. The system said that everything was not so simple, and the success indicator was only half filled, and asked the girl to continue in the same way. The girl asked why the assistant was so happy, because it was a simple task. The girl followed the maid. The system explained that she liked to watch others play and laughed. Bai Chuan asked her to hold back her laughter as she was going to enjoy her room. The girl entered the room and plopped down on the bed with a smile and joy. Shi Baba's phone received a call from Qian. The guy asked how the girl coped with the task. Shi Baba happily replied that she was half done and Qian needn't worry. Our heroine said that she would stay in the mansion. The girl claimed that Madame Mo wanted the couple to break up. The guy asked just not to call him because he would be busy and hang up. Shi Baba threw the phone down with displeasure. At the entrance, Qian met a girl with a gift. The brunette thanked the detective for his help and said that the gift was handmade. The girl said that she put all her heart and soul into the gift. The brunette handed the box to the detective. Qian said that Miss Yu shouldn't have been so tense. Qian thought that he was not shy about the girl. The detective wondered why his ears turned red, as if he was being scolded behind his back. The girl asked the detective to accept the gift. The guy took the box in his hands. Miss Yu said that this gift was very important to her. The girl blushed and ran away from the detective. The guy stretched out his hand and screamed and tried to stop Miss Yu. The detective put down the handmade gift that the girl gave him. The box was decorated with beautiful wrapping and a red bow. The guy stood in front of the mirror and put his hand on it. The detective said that he received the gift because it was incredibly beautiful. The guy stood in front of the mirror and scratched his chin. Qian said that it is difficult to be as unrivaledly beautiful as him. There was a laptop with books on the table and a board with notes on the wall. The detective turned around sharply. The guy suspected that something was wrong. The guy looked towards the table. The detective's attention was drawn to a red pen that lay crookedly on a notepad lying separately from the others. The guy thought that he had not left it like that and turned the red pen 90 degrees and placed it in the middle of the notebook. Suddenly, several quiet steps were heard outside the door to the detective's apartment. Several shadows were visible from under the door. The guy headed towards the door. The detective asked the unknown person outside the door if she was Yu Jiao Jiao, who had returned. The guy opened the door and leaned out halfway. The detective said he said there was no need. Qian stopped without finishing. There was no one in the corridor on the floor, which greatly surprised the detective. All that was visible were the doors to other apartments and the window at the end of the room. The detective was alarmed by this. The guy said that there was definitely someone walking around outside. Qian wondered if he was being followed. The blonde thought about one person. The detective quickly went back into the apartment without closing the door. The guy walked towards the board on which he glued clues about crimes. The guy looked at the detective board, which was all covered with guesses put forward by the detective and photographs of people. The detective, with a sharp movement of his hand, tore the paper from the detective board, thereby revealing the hidden investigation that he was conducting. The photographs showed the victim. a brunette woman, 24 years old. The map showed the places where the bodies of other victims of the maniac were found. A detective put a red cross on photographs of a man suspected in a series of murders. The man was wearing a black hoodie. His code name was Faceless Killer. The guy stood with a serious expression on his face and held a red marker in his hands. The detective assured that he would find that faceless killer. It was already night outside. Mother told Shen that he had not come to her for a long time. She reproached that he never showed up after her calls, and she was surprised that now he returned so early. He insisted that he missed him. Lin Mo argued that he should come more often, and she said that she often spent time with her aunt, and she thought about her son all the time. Madame Mo, hugging the blonde by the shoulders, said that she was the most attentive girl. She smiled contentedly in response. Soon they were seated at the table. The mother pulled Xingsheng's hand. She asked him to sit next to her. Our heroine realized that this was how the woman wanted to demonstrate her influence. The guy introduced his girlfriend to his mother. He said that her name was Bi Chuan. Madame Mo said that she already knows, and that I've already met that one. She suggested not to talk about trifles. First, have dinner together. After all, it had been so long since they had gathered together as a family. The woman, as if suddenly remembering her guest, invited her to sit down too. Our heroine thought that the rich know how to enjoy life. The table was quite large, but the trio sat nearby. The blonde was offering Shen his favorite dish, but he completely ignored her. Shen insisted that Chuan had actually asked him to visit his mother, and he admitted that he did not expect that she would be invited to their home. The guy was glad that his mother found a common language with his girlfriend. Madame Mo said that there was a special bond between close relatives, and she expressed regret that now there was someone else in her son's heart. After all, this meant that she herself would receive less attention. She was already glad that her son had at least not angered her to death. Shen insisted that he would not do this. He knew that his mother was not feeling well. So he decided to send Chuan home after dinner, and he advised her to rest peacefully. He assured her that they would not disturb her. Madame assured that the house was big, and she thought that they could accommodate one guest. She saw that the girl was dear to her son, and she promised to try to accept her, even though she didn't like her at first. The mother was going to give them a chance to be together if the son had not already changed his mind. The guy was surprised and asked if she was serious. The woman asked him if she had ever lied to him. Shen expressed words of gratitude. He assured that Chuan also hoped that his mother would accept her too, and he asked the girl for confirmation of his words. Our heroine smiled tightly, confirming the guy's words. But she was well aware that it was a trap. After all, Madame Mo will do everything to keep the girl away from her son, and yet get rid of it. Xingsheng stood at the door to the guest room. He told the girl that his mother only seemed formidable, and he assured that she was really kind. The guy was already glad that he and Chuan were given a chance, so there was hope that everything would work out. He asked the girl to make every effort for the sake of their future together. Bi Chan spoke sadly, that she thought that Lin Mo had slandered her in front of Madame Mo. That's why she misunderstood her. She asked Shen to explain everything to his mother. The guy grabbed his head. He claimed that it seemed to his mother that he was blinded. She also watched Lin Mo grow up and fell in love with her. And now he was afraid that his mother would no longer even believe his words. Shen said that Chuan was so kind, and Mom needs to see it herself to be sure. The girl was angry that he only wanted others to try. She wanted to kill him so badly. But she smiled. The guy gently hugged Chuan. He asked her not to worry, and he assured that he would be in the next room. I said goodbye to her and wished her good night. Soon our heroine closed the door behind Xingsheng. She thought that the way the guy handled the relationship between his mother-in-law and daughter-in-law was simply disgusting. And even despite the guy's beauty, she thought that he was quite stupid. After all, because she couldn't rely on Mo Xingsheng, her task became even more difficult. And the girl didn't know what Madame Mo was really planning, and she decided to ask Song Qian about it. Bei Chuan resolutely picked up the jewelry from the necklace, which was in fact a transmitter. The girl told Song Qian that in her opinion everything was going well, but she was worried that Madame Mo was up to something, and she asked him to advise what could be opposed to her. The blonde replied that Madame Mo had always been a ruthless person in business, and he assured that she would act quite harshly. Song said that the lady was only pretending to give the girl a chance to earn her blessing, and he believed that as soon as any problem arose, it would be Chuan's fault, and she won't be able to blame Madame Mo in return. In response, the girl asked not to scare her. The guy claimed that he did not know what the ladies would do to force Chuan to admit her guilt while absolving Madame Mo of any responsibility. The girl realized that she was being brazenly used as bait for Xingchen, that the mother thus wanted to keep him close to her for further manipulations. The interlocutor assured that this was Madame Mo's territory, and that she could not influence her actions in any way. She said that there was zero opportunity to turn the situation in her favor, and she asked what she should do. Qian said that she should have tried not to give reasons for reproaches. Our heroine turned off the bell. She was annoyed that it was impossible to count on the blonde at all. Chuan lay down on the bed of the guest room that was offered to her and pulled the blanket over herself. The girl reassured herself that if she failed the task, she would not be the only one who would return on the 23rd. And she shouldn't have been afraid at all. Elsewhere, Songqian was also already lying down thinking. He thought that with Shibaba's character, he had to be prepared to start all over again. The girl had a nightmare of Madame Mo stretching out her hands to her. And behind her were Lin and Xingchen. The sun illuminated the roof of the house with its first rays. The girl complained that she dreamed of mosquitoes all night. Chuan sat in bed and wiped sweat from her forehead. She told herself that she was too carried away by this game, and she admitted that for this reason the world seemed very realistic to her. The girl decided to go outside for a walk and breathe in the fresh morning air. A blonde dressed in only underwear was about to knock on the door. She knew that it was Shen's room. Lin Mo was very nervous and still couldn't decide to take this step. At some point, she even removed her hand. At this time, Chuan was just coming out of the next door. The blonde even jumped in surprise, and the girl asked the one what she was doing here. Lin began to shout at the guest. She insisted that she could not sleep and walked around the house. She believed that she was not at all obliged to report to outsiders, and she assured that if she had known that she would stay, she would have left herself. Chuan, smiling, said that the girl walked here because it was difficult for her to resist sneaking a peek at Shen's room. Lin told Bei Chuan not to be so arrogant, so that she wouldn't even think that since her aunt allowed her to stay, then she accepted her. And she assured that she knew how to kick her out. The girl assured that Madame Mo kept her word, and I already gave her a chance. She said that as soon as she accepted her, they would need to prepare for the wedding, and she invited her to become a bridesmaid. Lin Mo held her head in despair. She couldn't imagine herself as a bridesmaid at a wedding. The blonde assured that as soon as Auntie gets to the hospital, Shen will immediately forget about Chuan. But then she suddenly realized that she had let it slip and covered the rock with her hands. But our heroine already understood everything. She thought deeply about the unexpected new information she had received. To the horror of the blonde Chuan, her plan became known. This happened because Lin Mo spilled the beans. The girl nervously tried to justify herself and pretended as if she had not said anything. Chuan asked what she meant then. The guest suggested that because Shen didn't like Lin, she was offended and cursed her aunt. Chuan's words hurt the blonde. Lin Mo pushed her, driving her away. At this very time, Xingchen came out of the room in response to their noise. The guy managed to catch the girl by the hand. He asked if everything was okay with her. The girl thanked Xingchen, but Shibaba knew that he could do no good. And he knows exactly how to play the hero. The guy said he heard screams outside his door. He asked if it was Ling Mo. Chuan told him that the blonde wanted to find him, but instead she started a conflict with her, which is why they quarreled a little. Our heroine decided that it was time to act. Shen was worried that Lin was going too far. Chuan knew that the blonde really liked Shen. She asked if he had never had a desire. The guy claimed that he did not love Lin Mo. After all, she was his childhood friend. She was like a sister to him. Hugging the girl, he said that his heart was occupied only by Chuan, and he asked if she believed him. The girl assured that of course she believed. Chuan pulled the guy away from her. The brunette said it was too early, and she thought that Shen should go back to bed, because he had to go to work today. Xingsheng said that he did not want to sleep, but he reminded that in half a month Chuan will publish the wildlife magazine, and he asked if she needed to prepare the cover. Shibaba was surprised that the main character also has a job. The system told her that Chuan and Xingsheng met through work. Shibaba was upset and unhappy that she would have to work in the game, but she had no choice, and she would have to work. But she thought it was unfair. Shin asked the girl if everything was okay and if there were any problems or difficulties. Chuan had an idea. She said she left all her materials at home because she didn't have time to take them with her. Wiping away a non-existent tear and fiddling with a lock of hair, she said that she was worried that if she returned home, Her mother would misunderstand her. Shin offered to help with this, and I wanted to arrange for the necessary materials to be brought for her right now. He picked up the phone to make a call about the matter. Chuan turned him away from this idea, saying that she would ask her friend to do it. Shin said that he would go to his room to wash up and promised to join her again soon. It was only 6 in the morning, and the detective was still fast asleep in bed. Only the first rays of the rising sun filtered through the window of his room. But when he saw an incoming call from Chuan, he suddenly stood up. Worried that Madame Mo might have done something to her, he asked if she was okay. Chuan asked Song Tianya not to worry, and asked him to help and bring her drawing tablet. Song Tian was not happy with this idea, because the girl called him early in the morning. Shibaba said that she came up with this as an excuse so that he could come to the mansion and help her on the spot. She assured that it was worth preparing earlier so as not to start all over again. He told her to wait for him. Shibaba is very pleased that this time she will have an assistant and will not have to get out on her own. Shen suddenly appeared in the room, slightly frightening the girl. He asked what made her so happy. Chuan claimed that she came up with the idea for the drawing and for this reason she was very pleased. Gently taking the girl by the hand, he invited her to go downstairs to spend time together at breakfast. The guy notified his mother that he had an important meeting. He claimed that for this reason he should have left early. Madame Mo replied as he sipped his tea that he could go and not worry about Chuan, promising that she would take care of his friend. The brunette politely thanked the madam, but it seemed to her that this meant taking care of her to death. 15 minutes later, Chuan informed Madam that she would go to her room for the milestone. Mother didn't like it. She thought that since Shin left, the guest no longer wanted to spend time with her. Madame Mo began to blame Chuan for not respecting her. The brunette said that this was not true at all. Chuan took a cup of tea from the maid and offered it to her future mother-in-law, saying that she had a hard morning. Madame Mo deliberately dropped the cup to show her dissatisfaction, and its contents and fragments fell on the girl's feet. The girl was annoyed and surprised at the same time. She was even taken aback. And I looked at the result in complete stupor. Chuan turned around sharply and went upstairs. She said that she tried to please, but she did not appreciate it. She insisted that that was why she was leaving, so as not to annoy Madame anymore. Madame stopped the girl, saying that she should do what she should do. After all, she gave her the opportunity to stay here. And even if she didn't like something, she was obliged to accept it. The girl said she just didn't want to do it. She asked what she could do for her. Madame threatened that as long as she lived, she would never become part of the Mo family. And she assured that today she would teach her how to talk to elders, at the same time showing the guest his fist. The woman was chasing Chuang, but she made it clear to Madame that if something happened to such an old woman, she would not take responsibility for it. Madame threatened that if anything happened to her, it would be entirely Chuan's fault. Suddenly Madame stumbled and began to fall down the stairs. Our heroine could no longer do anything about it. Shibaba covered her face in despair. She realized that this was the end, and she will have to start the game again. Madame Mo was surprised that the under turned out to be soft. In fact, she was sitting on the guy's back. The blonde, saving the lady from falling, scattered the papers and dropped the pencil. When our heroine finally decided to open her eyes, she was very surprised by what she saw. Song Chan extended his hand to her and asked her to help the lady get up from him. He was afraid that his back was going to break. Chuan hurried to his aid. More precisely, remove Madame Mo from the guy's back. She told her future mother-in-law that she would help her get up. But then Lin Mo arrived. She pushed Chuan aside, demanding that she move away. And she emphasized that she had just tried to kill, and now she was pretending that she wanted to help. And it was not clear what she was up to. The girl furiously insisted that Madame Mo had accidentally slipped, and she reminded her that her friend managed to save her in time. Bei Chuan began to help the blonde up and asked if he was okay. The guy was complaining about his back. The girl agreed that it was cruel, but there was no need to start all over again. Madame Mo was furious. She was surprised that Chuan, not yet a member of the family, behaved like a hostess and invited strangers into the house. She felt it was disrespectful to her. And the guy thought that in truth he was a detective hired by the madam herself. And he believed that it was only her fault that they communicated only through an intermediary. After all, I've never met her in person. Chuan assured her mother-in-law that she had misunderstood her, that she needed some things for work, so she asked a friend for help. And she assured Madame that she had previously discussed this issue with Shen. Chuan, with the most innocent face, insisted that it was not her own decision. The mistress of the house clenched her fists from the emotions overwhelming her. She was angry that her future daughter-in-law used Shen to make any excuse for herself. Unexpectedly, Madame Mo coughed violently. The blonde worriedly asked her aunt what was wrong with her. Chuan also asked her mother-in-law if everything was okay with her. After all, just now Madame felt good. But suddenly she felt bad. She asked if she was angry with her. Lin Mo, holding the woman, asked her to wake up. But she was weak and seemed about to lose consciousness. The aunt squeezed the blonde's sleeve with weak fingers. The girl hugged the weak madam, and she thought maliciously how Chuan would get out of it now. Lin Mo said that her aunt was not feeling well. She demanded that Bi Chuan go to her room and bring the medicine. And the frightened girl was surprised that she was entrusted with this. Song Qian asked if everyone from the servants heard that it was worth bringing the medicine quickly. He said that the servants were responsible for this. The maid stammered something incomprehensible. And Ling Mo thought angrily to herself that this guy was very annoying and unpleasant. She started shouting at Chuan, and she said that Madame Mo needed help, but she was just waiting for others to act. And she asked if she had a conscience. And she wondered why Shen settled her here. Then our heroine firmly and roughly took the maid by the hand and dragged them up the steps. She said that she did not have a key to Madame's room and demanded that she be taken there. Song said that he would also go with them. Walking up the stairs, the girl thought that she didn't know whether Madame Mo was pretending or not. But in any case, she will have to take all the blame on herself. And she believed that it was better to help her in order to increase her chances. Bei Chuan entered the room of her future mother-in-law with the help of a maid. Before her gaze was a bookcase, on the bottom shelf of which there were many jars with some kind of drugs. The girl barked at the maid to quickly look for the medicine. The frightened servant reached for the bottle with trembling hands. She thought maybe it would be better to take what Miss Lin ordered. The maid still couldn't decide which of the two jars she should take. The choice was between a bottle with a yellow label and a blue one. Our heroine was glad that even the servant had a hand in this. And it seemed to her that everyone was playing with her and waiting for her to stumble. Bei Chuan picked up a bottle with a yellow label. She told the girl that she didn't know what medicine Madame Mo was taking. But the maid definitely should have known this. And if something goes wrong, then she won't get away with it. And our heroine asked the maid to think again whether she took the right bottle of the drug. In response, the girl began to cry and insisted that she was mistaken. Chuan picked up the bottle with the blue label. The maid, holding out a trembling hand, replied that it was necessary. The girl walked and playfully tossed the bottle in her hand, trying to juggle it. Song Qian said that she was great, admiring her resourcefulness. In the living room, the maid was busy around her mistress. She brought her a glass of water, and she told Madame that it would be better for her to drink a little more water. Bei Chuan exhaled. Over the past half hour, she was finally overcome by the emotions she had experienced. But the detective, knowing this family well, did not relax. Suddenly, Madame Mo's eyes widened. Pressing a handkerchief to her mouth with her right hand, the woman coughed convulsively. Her body shook with spasms. When the attack passed, to everyone's great horror, I saw traces of blood on the snow-white fabric. Madame Mo started shouting at her future daughter-in-law. How dare she harm her health? Lin Mo immediately appeared next to her. She began to fuss excitedly around her aunt. It came as a surprise to everyone that the health of the housewife had deteriorated. The detective and Bei Chuan were at a loss. They both couldn't understand what was happening. Soon everyone was already in the hospital. Song Qian said that he did not expect Madame Mo to be so cruel to herself. After all, even though they gave her the right medicine, she deliberately drank a small dose. The detective insisted that the woman had known for a long time that her illness could worsen, and she pretended that it was Bei Chuan who provoked her so that she had to go to the hospital. And he assured that Shen would blame the girl. The girl said that there were a lot of people there, and it was obvious that it was Madame Mo who was angry with her first. And it wasn't Chuan who opened the medicine cabinet. The blonde said that all the people in that house worked for Madame Mo, and he asked her to guess which version would be told and confirmed to Xing Shen, true or false. In the hospital corridor near a special ward, all the participants were waiting for the arrival. Xing Shen soon joined them. Lin immediately threw herself into his arms. She began to claim that Bei Chuan wanted to kill her aunt. But fortunately, Madame Mo was lucky and survived. She begged him to never trust this terrible girl again. Shen took the blonde by the shoulders and pulled her away from him and spoke. That there must have been some kind of misunderstanding. And when Mom wakes up, he will ask her everything himself. I asked the girl not to say anything more. The woman assured her son that she was already in this state, but he still did not see the true face of that girl. She coughed convulsively. He assured his mother that he understood everything and asked her not to worry. Chuan said that she needed to face the truth, because she had already fallen into a trap. And since Mo Xingsheng was here and she wouldn't go there, he would think that it was all her fault. The detective tried to stop Shibaba. He assured her that if she just entered the ward, Xingsheng might misunderstand her. She angrily asked what she should do. Song insisted that if they were treated unfairly, there was no need to rush to solve the problem immediately. After all, this was a way to show your resentment and weakness. All he had to do was not admit the false accusations. The blonde argued that based on Mo Xingsheng's character, he should have taken this into account. And he promised that he would secretly leave clues for him so that he himself would find out the truth. And then Chuan will have a chance. The girl said it was amazing, and she assured that Song should be a contender for the title of harem champion, and she insisted that his detective agency was a waste of time. Chuang said it was time for her to run, and the guy shouted after her to hurry up and find Mo Xingsheng, and the blonde tried to straighten his back. It crunched and he made sounds at the same time. The guy told himself that his back had not yet recovered, and it hurt him even just to move his legs. Song Chan stood motionless. He saw from the shadow on the floor that there was a man standing behind him, so he turned back sharply. The blonde saw an unknown person coming out of the corridor through the door to the stairs, and he began to catch up with him. The detective looked down, but the unknown person disappeared without a trace. The guy swore, and he told himself that he could not have been allowed to slip away. The man walked along the corridor tiles. He was reading a message on his phone. He received a message. I found a suitable place. We start acting tomorrow. It was night outside. The waning month was shining in the sky, and only 3 windows shone in the building. The box contained many vials of drugs. It had the inscription First Aid Kit on it. The guy told himself that he remembered that there were 2 more bottles of medicine there, and I couldn't understand where they went. Detective Song took one of the vials in his hand and began to examine it carefully, but his work was interrupted by the doorbell. The guy opened the doors. He asked Chuan why she was here and if everything was fine with her. A neighbor asked if he believed in her acting abilities, and she admitted that she pinched herself to cry. And at that moment in the ward, the girl looked unhappy. She assured Shen that it was all her fault, that she failed to take care of Madame Mo and let him down. She reported that she would leave the mansion in the evening. A cough was heard from the room. Mo Xingsheng assured that there is someone here to look after his mother, and Chuang doesn't need to come here, and he thought that they should stop dating for a while. The girl asked if he accused her, and she was surprised that he didn't believe her at all. Shen told her that he wanted to believe her, but he reminded that his mother was now lying sick and waiting for an explanation from him. Tears welled up in Chuan's eyes. She began to reproach herself for not taking good care of Madame Mo, and she thought it was logical that now the guy was angry with her. But she insisted that she would never have harmed his mother. The girl walked away along the hospital corridor. She said that maybe Shen was right, and they really should have separated for a while and calmed down. And now Chuan assured the detective that after her speech, Mo Xingsheng would definitely not fall asleep today. Song insisted that she could share what happened without invading his home. The girl handed her neighbor a bottle of medicine in dark glass. She reported that this was home delivery of medicines. She remembered that her partner had hurt his back because of her, and that couldn't just be ignored. The blonde said that this was really what was needed, and he wanted to take the medicine, but Chuan did not allow him to do so. The girl pointed her finger at the sofa. She ordered Song to take off his jacket and lie down on his stomach with his back up, and she claimed that she was going to smear him with a healing remedy. The blonde looked confused. He protested, and she assured that there was no need for that, and that he can do everything himself. Chuan asked why he had to be ashamed, and she asked the guy to hurry up. He continued to resist and assure that she really shouldn't have done this. The girl thought that Song was just a character in the game, and she noticed to herself that in her life she had seen many beautiful bodies of real men. The detective took a step towards Chuan and pushed her onto the sofa. She screamed in surprise. Out of surprise, the girl missed the bottle of medicine, and he fell to the floor. Song thought that he was going crazy. It seemed to him that Shibaba was using the same tricks on him that she had used on Mo Xingsheng. The blonde quickly handed Chuan her technique. He said he fixed her tablet. He ordered him to take him and leave. Our heroine could not believe that she was being kicked out, but the door had already been abruptly closed behind her. The girl thought to herself that it turned out that the character Song was a sarcastic, aggressive love object, and Detective Song Qian was left alone, thinking about what had just happened to him. He remembered how a higher rank adjusted his uniform, and at the same time he gave his instructions. He said that a detective must be balanced, but she assured that Liang Xiong was his student, and that there was a lot to learn from him. A colleague assured his father that the guy was quite reliable at work. The blonde reflected that the enemy was now hiding in the darkness, and he didn't know if he was a faceless killer. I realized that Shibaba was becoming too close lately, and it was better not to see them together. And our heroine slept soundly. The system reported an alarm that Madame Mo and Ling Mo were in danger, and Chuan had to go to the hospital to save them. The girl opened her sleepy eyes. She replied that there was a lot of security in the ICU of the private hospital. She wondered how they could be in danger. Chuan answered indifferently that she was not at all eager to save them, and she believed that they should suffer. She made an imaginary blow to the system screen. The system asked if the heroine was sane. The program reported that if something happened to the ladies, they would no longer be able to continue the story, and you'll have to start the game again. And this could be her success. The girl asked if she was sure. She remembered that this definitely wasn't in the original plot. The system reported that it had detected unpredictable data on Song Qian. The system said that this intrigue should be revealed by himself. The girl was already running out the door. She said that in this case, she would go to him. Bei Chuan pressed the doorbell button. She shouted to Song Qian that she knew he was at home, and she demanded that the doors be opened for her. And she assured him that something important had happened, hurrying him along. Soon the blonde was already opening the doors. He asked Shibaba if she knew what time it was. He insisted that he had not slept all day yesterday. But the girl grabbed the detective tightly by the hand and dragged him along. The blonde said he hoped there was something urgent, and he reported that if this was not so, then he was no longer in alliance with her. The girl, without stopping or even slowing down, said that she promised, and she assured that her mission depended on it. Ling Mo yawned sleepily while holding a cup of hot tea. She complained that the hospital beds were very uncomfortable, and she understood that if she did not want to marry Shen, she would not have sat around caring for the old woman. A tall man in a medical mask was walking towards the blonde and was carrying a gurney. When the person in the white robe passed by, Lin Mo felt an inexplicable trembling. Lin Mo noticed that this person was very creepy. She couldn't understand what was happening to her, and she reassured herself that he was just a doctor. The girl assumed that it seemed because of fatigue. The blonde was sitting in a hospital bed. Madame Mo was sleeping. The girl decided to clean herself up and opened her cosmetics to apply shadow on her eyelids and blush on her cheeks. Door suddenly opened. Lin couldn't understand why the doctor came so early today to examine the patient. The man closed the door behind him, latching it. He told Miss that he was not here to inspect them but to catch them. The girl realized that it was the same one she had seen in the corridor. Lin knew that ordinary doctors could not come to this department at all. She screamed at him not to come near her. She assured that there was a lot of security outside, and she began to loudly call for security. The criminal answered sarcastically. He slowly approached in frightened victimhood. At this time, Madame Mo woke up from the noise in the ward. She wondered to herself how the intruder got here, and I thought that it was worth finding a way to call for help. The woman reached out with a trembling hand to the button to call the medical staff, but the criminal noticed it immediately. He quickly found himself next to the patient's bed, and I pulled out the power wires from the device. Meanwhile, Ling Mo quietly retreated back. Soon she was at the door, but the girl couldn't open it. The blonde cursed under her breath. The man had already turned to the girl and pointed the blade of a huge axe in her direction. Madame Mo shouted a warning about the danger. The blonde managed to react, and the criminal's axe hit the glass of the door. The girl pressed her whole body in fear. Madame Mo held the man's leg, ordering him not to touch Lin. The attacker kicked the old woman. He started yelling at the woman to stop. Madame Mo lay on the floor of the ward, curled up in pain. She was again tormented by a coughing attack. Tears flowed from Lin's eyes. She begged the attacker not to kill her. She insisted that her family had a lot of money, and she promised to give the man as much as he wanted, just so that he wouldn't kill her. The villain ordered the blonde to close her mouth and be silent. He grabbed her roughly by the hair and demanded that she get up. Madame Mo grabbed the big man's hand, in which the criminal easily held the heavy axe. She tried to prevent him from harming the girl's life and health, and she demanded that he let her go. The man's hand released his blonde hair. The woman screamed at Mo not to be afraid, and she assured that she would not allow anyone to harm her. The killer ordered the lady not to interfere and asked if she also wanted to die. The next event was a complete surprise to Madame Mo. Lin Mo, saving herself, pushed her aunt in the back towards the big criminal, and she hurried to quickly hide from the room. The killer turned all his anger on the woman. He said that the old woman ruined his plan, and now she had to say goodbye to life, and she regretted that she was blind and treated Lin like her own daughter. Then the man was hit on the back of the head with a glass bottle. Chuan shouted to Madame, urging her to be careful. The man turned his face towards his attacker. He said it was impossible. After all, everyone here was under anesthesia, and I couldn't believe that there was someone else here. A big man in a white robe was lying face down on the floor of the room. As he fell, he dropped the axe from his hands. Chuan reproached him for deciding to mock an old sick woman. She angrily called him a non-entity. Song peeked out from around the corner. He saw the silhouette of a man hurrying away down the corridor. The blonde scratched his chin in thought. It turned out that Madame Mo was indeed in danger. He could not understand how Shibaba knew about this. And then I realized that it might have been because of the assignment. The girl sat down next to Madame Mo. She asked if everything was okay with her. The woman was completely bewildered and confused. She was very surprised to see Bai Chuan. Shen's mother rushed into Chuan's arms. She didn't expect her to come to her aid. The woman was very upset when she learned about Lin Mo's betrayal. After all, I trusted her and had high hopes for her. Madame Mo cried in fear, although she was usually strong. But everything was already behind her and ended well for her. The conversation between Shen's lover Bai Chuan and his mother Madame Mo was interrupted by Detective Song Qian. He said that being in the hospital now was extremely dangerous, and that he needed to quickly get out of this place. Bai Chuan agreed with him. They walked very quietly along the hospital corridor, looking around warily. Their steps were only slightly audible from a distance. Suddenly, our heroine heard a system alert about danger. Behind them, the silhouette of a man was visible, and in his hands was a huge axe. The attacker swung with all his might, but Bai Chuan miraculously managed to cover Madame Mo with herself. They both miraculously avoided certain death. The attacker again sharply and quickly wanted to attack again, but then his friend Chuan came to the rescue. The guy struck the robber with an axe in the face with lightning speed, sharply knocking him to the ground. Song Qian then ordered the ladies to leave as quickly as possible. But Shibaba categorically protested. She didn't want to leave him alone in this terrible place. The detective took the liberty of reminding Shay who he used to work for, and also that he was in excellent physical shape. As soon as the criminal came to his senses and attacked the guy again, he, with a cunning move and an excellent technique, knocked the environment out of the hands of the attacker. And without weapons, it will be easy to deal with him. Girl Sheena and Madame Mo left, but they had doubts whether Song Qian could fight the criminal, and so they decided to call for help. But suddenly, a tall and strong man in a hospital mask appeared right in front of them. He was glad that although he missed one victim, another one was found, that is, Bai Chuan. The beauty was confused and thought that this round did not end in their favor. But the game indicated to the girl that she was near the fire exit and needed to run. This was the fastest way to escape. Our heroine did not know how she would escape with Madame Mo, but she was reminded that she could exchange 20 accumulated points for 2 points of physical strength. Bai Chuan didn't hesitate to increase her stamina. She threw Madame Mo over her shoulders and ran as fast as she could. The big criminal was completely at a loss as to how they were able to escape from him. He stood and just looked after the retreating two silhouettes. As Shibaba ran with the woman on her back, she shouted for Song Qian to stop the thug. But suddenly she stumbled. Song shouted to the girl to be careful, but he was hit in the back as soon as he was distracted. Meanwhile, Bai ran to the fire exit with the old woman in her arms, but a robber was hot on her heels. 20 minutes later, he couldn't believe his eyes. After all, there was no trace of those who ran away. She asked herself how the girl could do this so quickly. He swore into the void that they would meet again soon. Shon's beloved was suffocating from lack of strength and air. She told the groom's mother that they were now safe and in no danger. Old Lady Mo finally noticed Bai Chuan's good intentions and said that she was a very good girl. The mother asked the girl to call Shon and take them home. The bride went to look for a cell signal. Looking at the phone screen, her heart sank with excitement. There were 10 missed calls and 20 text messages from Song Qian. He was very worried and asked to gain time for rescue. He sent a message for her to look up. Song was already near her. Bai Chuan was very surprised how he was able to find them. But then I realized that it was with the help of a locator. The following events took place in the city in a quiet cafe. That day was very sunny and clear, which probably affected the girl's mood. Bai Chuan walked into this beautiful place and ordered 2 coffees to go. And then the game informed her that the task of winning her mother-in-law's favor had been completed. 200 points received. The brown-haired woman went out into the street in high spirits. She caught herself thinking that getting points in the game world, like receiving a salary, was nice. Meanwhile, Song Chun was sitting in his office. The guy studied the documents, quickly rearranging sheets of paper. Took important notes and notes. His former colleague and friend came to him. It was Police Captain Liang Xiong. He said that the authorities were very interested in the Mo family's case, and he asked the blonde to help find the killer. The young man sat in a chair and talked about how the group had been working on this case for a week. But there is not much progress, just a little information from the person caught in the hospital. When suddenly the detective heard screams. It was Bai who asked the door to be opened for her. He was surprised because he gave her the password and she could log in herself. The blue-eyed, brown-haired girl in a great mood burst into the office, holding coffee for the hero in his hands. A sly grin and joy at her arrival could be seen on Song Chan's face. He said that he saved the heroine's life, and in return he only received coffee. While drinking her drink, the girl objected that this was just a mission. Isn't it obvious? With some grief in his eyes, the participant in the dialogue suggested that the problem of the relationship between mother-in-law and daughter-in-law had now been resolved. The conversation turned to Lin Mo. She was completely out of the game. The joyful beauty babbled about Madame Mo. The woman persuaded Mo Xingsheng would rather marry her. Holding his beautiful, bright glass of drink in his hands, the detective asked if the girl was happy. The satisfied young lady answered in the affirmative. The brown-haired girl was happy with the successful completion of the tasks and the lack of new tasks at the moment. The distressed young man turned his back to her. I put the coffee on the table. He asked if it was really necessary to congratulate the lady. There was an awkward tension. Bai Chuan specially bought a new one with lime flavor. She knew that the blonde did not like the sweet drink of vigor, but he objected that he didn't like sour either. The ally advised the lady to save her desire to please for Mo Xingsheng. His gaze was angry. The future daughter-in-law of the Mo family snorted in response. For some reason, the guy decided to say this only after a few sips. He was very angry, pointed the lady to the door, and he said that if she came to mock him, then she had better leave the office. Shun's beloved was perplexed by such a change in mood. But then I remembered about the escaped criminal and asked if there was any evidence. Song Qian told the story that the man's name was Zhao Heng. He was born in the city of Linchuan, became an orphan at the age of 8, and the villain was abandoned by his mother. The agent concluded that this was a childhood trauma, due to which the culprit began to hate women, and his accomplice acts solely for the sake of money. All the victims are young rich girls, and there are already more than 5 of them. One is engaged in extortion. The second is murders and disposal of corpses. The heroine began to wonder why it was so early. In the book, Zhao Heng appeared only when Bai Chuan and Mo Xingsheng had a conflict. The lady was lost in thought. There she deliberately broke off all relations with Mo Xingsheng, and the groom mistakenly thought that she had been caught by a criminal. He rushed to help, but found only a body. The guy was very ill. He was vomiting blood. It appears that another girl was killed. And then the young man realized that he could not live without the beautiful Chuan. The main character tried his best to return his beloved, and they finally made peace. The handsome man admitted that he did not want to lose her. These sweet thoughts were interrupted by Song Chun. He said that this information had nothing to do with the girl. He advised me to take up drawing and not come to his house. The angry brown-haired woman was surprised. How could this not have anything to do with her? After all, she is an important witness in the case. Her life was almost cut short. The detective looked at him with prejudice. So what information could this lady give him? How can it be useful? Bai Chuan became tense. Her body and gestures indicated that the lady was now in no mood to tell anything. The detective mockingly said that he knew so. There was nothing important to tell Shon's fiancé. The heroine was just worried, and I wanted to give some useful tips. The agent slammed the door in her face with all his might. Shi Baba shouted after him to figure it out on his own. In his mind, the detective did not want to hurt this young lady. But as long as Zhao Heng is free, the ally had better be safe. And don't come to him. The guy had a premonition that he was being watched, and that the appearance of this criminal is not at all accidental. Is he really following the blonde? A young girl was sitting at home and thinking. She wouldn't care, but the system reported that Zhao Heng was following Song Qian, and that's when he saw Ling Mo. Suddenly, the network announced that it refused to take blame for the litter of its allies. Bai Chuan blamed the game for changing the storyline because of the detective. There was no response from the system. All that was said was that the girl could continue the game. She does not intend to sit at home and draw. Tomorrow I was going to go for a walk. Someone called the elevator. The door opened and a young lady stood in front of the brown-haired woman. A beautiful girl was holding a box with a large bow in her hands. While leaving, Bai Chuan accidentally brushed the lady's shoulder. She dropped the gift on the floor with a crash. Mo Xingsheng's fiancé was very upset. I asked the girl for forgiveness, and she offered to help collect the contents. The heroine suggested that the surprise was for this young lady's boyfriend, but she objected that not yet. Bai Chuan noted the girl's beauty, and she dared to say that this young man would soon become her boyfriend. After wishing each other good luck, the girls went their separate ways. One went for a walk outside, and the second one still entered the elevator with her gift. Mo Xingsheng's beloved lover ran out into the park. Her mood was excellent. The lady was happy to have a good meeting with a new friend. The participant in the game ran along narrow paths among dense trees, enjoyed the sunny day, and she didn't notice that she was being followed. The man closely watched Bai Chuan's every move. Meanwhile, Bai Chuan walked along the park stairs, talking to the system. She couldn't believe that the system didn't know the reason for Zhao Heng's surveillance of the detective, and suspected that they were hiding something from her. The girl was talking to the system, turning on a selfie on her smartphone when she suddenly fell silent. She was clearly scared of something. Something flashed in the corner of the camera made the heroine wary. The thought flashed through her mind that she herself might be the object of Zhao Heng's surveillance. The fears were not in vain. Indeed, behind the tree, among the huge boulders, an ominous dark figure could be seen. Someone was hiding there. In a panic, Bai Chuan began calling Song Qian, nervously fiddling with the silver pendant on her chest. She really needed him to pick up the phone right now. She walked further and further along the alley of the park, listening to the rustling behind her. A figure with a knife was approaching from behind. Suddenly there was a sharp message signal from the system. This was a warning of the approach of an armed enemy. It made the girls suddenly take off, which the attacker clearly did not expect. In a panic, Bai promised herself to never walk alone again. Now she understood that it would be better to stay at home and draw for the rest of her days. The criminal realized that he had been noticed and decided to prevent the victim from leaving. He was very angry. His face was distorted with rage. Bai Chuan quickly flew up the park stairs. She was very angry with Song Qian, who had disappeared somewhere. An angry criminal armed with a knife was inexorably approaching from behind. The cutie also suggested altering the sweater a little. She really wanted to get inside Song's home and was tormented by jealousy of the other girl, since the detective was not going to let anyone in. However, Miss Yu was disappointed. Song Qian firmly refused to accept the gift no matter what it was. Meanwhile, the phone on the detective's desk suddenly rang. It was in desperation, with the last of her strength, running away from the criminal, that Bai Chuan tried to call Song Qian. The attacker, who had previously only threatened with a knife, now pulled out a huge pistol and aimed at the girl, grinning smugly. Then suddenly the system signal sounded. He warned that the villain was about to shoot and ordered Bai to immediately dodge to the left. The next second she heard the sounds of gunfire incredibly close. The girl was shocked. Until recently, she did not want to believe in a real threat to her life. Trembling with fear, Bai Chuan continued to run up the steps. She rushed left and right, and shots with a terrible sound rang out right under her feet. The criminal was angry. His victim was too good at dodging. However, he was sure that this time the girl would not escape. Finally, the completely exhausted girl got out onto the road. She stood, breathing heavily, exhausted from the chase, and could not believe that the terrible forest was left behind. At the same moment, Detective Song got in touch. He was able to contact the heroine by receiving a signal from the moon necklace. Bai explained that she was already safe, but had barely escaped Zhao Heng's pursuit. The guy was preoccupied and reproached her for being frivolous. She admitted that she was wrong. The heroine explained that she was frightened by shots from a pistol and now her legs are even giving way. The worried detective offered to come immediately. He was not at all sure that Zhao Heng would give up his attempts to attack the girl. At this, Bai Chuan had already completely calmed down. She walked serenely along the road, thanking the detective. Therefore, I didn't notice at all that a huge menacing SUV was approaching from behind. Suddenly, the car was incredibly close. The engine roared. At the same second, the system signal sounded, warning of an alarm. The criminal sitting in the Jeep laughed ominously as he approached the victim. He undoubtedly wanted her dead. The girl fell lifelessly onto the asphalt. A silver moon necklace glittered in his outstretched hand. The detective's frightened voice came from it. He called her again and begged for an answer. Only when she came to her senses did the heroine feel severe pain. She asked the system why she was so vulnerable. The program regretted its helplessness and made excuses for not having time to warn about the threat. The attacker got out of the SUV and looked smugly at the victim stretched out at his feet. He wanted to kidnap the girl and torture her properly. But it didn't work out because Bai Chuan was too fast. The scoundrel said that he was dissatisfied with such an easy death. Song Qian heard all this on the phone. Unable to restrain himself, he shouted at Zhao Heng to stop the tragedy. The criminal heard the detective's voice coming from the necklace and guessed that it was not just a beautiful trinket. The exhausted girl asked to return the jewel to her. Then the attacker dared to offer Song a deal. He offered to exchange the girl's life for the information he needed. Shocked by what he heard, the detective froze at the phone. The voice on the phone offered to reveal the answers to such important questions for the detective. He promised to tell a lot about himself and why he kills women. The vibrations were very strong. The solution of many terrible crimes was at stake. However, the pale Song Qian replied that he was choosing Bai Chuan's life. The criminal was triumphant. He was happy that Song Qian gave in so easily and chose a woman. He suggested that we think it over again. But the blonde was adamant. The guy wanted to meet and talk. The detective also added that the accomplice would not spare anyone. The attacking villain was not going to meet the detective halfway. He understood that after all the murders, he would still fall into the hands of the police. Therefore, I wanted to make a decision for the agent. Bai Chuan lay on the asphalt and called Song Qian for help. Immediately there was a crunch. It was Zhao Heng who broke the amulet. Suddenly, in a strong male hand clenched into a fist, a knife blade flashed. The killer enjoyed himself and let out a loud laugh. The young man heard short beeps on the telephone receiver. He felt how these sounds created a feeling of tension and anticipation. The detective was in complete despair. The guy was angry with himself for letting the lady go home so easily. Then the blonde thought that Zhao Heng would not let it slip through his hands so easily. Song Qian sat in the middle of the room, tense and helpless. The agent cried, covering his face with his hands. Suddenly everything became quiet. The silence and lack of activity on the other end of the line created a feeling of emptiness and bewilderment. Instantly, everything in the detective's head was mixed up and spinning. Various memories came to him. Scenes from the past days flashed in my memory. His gaze caught the calendar that stands on the table. There was a large number 22 visible. The upset and confused agent stood and motionless looked at the numbers. Song Qian dejectedly realized that everything had started all over again. The young guy stood in silence, looking into space. He thought about his next steps if all this turned out to be true. The detective suddenly jumped up and ran to the open door. A bright light was visible from it. Bai Chuan was sleeping soundly in her bed. In her sleep, the girl heard someone ringing the doorbell. The sound smoothly intertwined with dreams and became more and more insistent. It was a detective who was confusedly trying to remember the code to the lady's door. The young man pressed different buttons chaotically. Finally, the blonde was able to choose the correct combination of numbers. And on the dial screen, he saw that access to his girlfriend's apartment was unlocked. At this time, Bai Chuan had already woken up. She thought that the killer had come to take her life. The girl was trembling and crying with fear. Luckily, it was Detective Song. The guy hugged her tightly and tenderly. Then he pressed me to himself with all his might and said that everything was fine. They stood for a long time, silently in each other's arms. The young girl thought that the detective had taken the wrong pills. The system was surprised that the lady did not remember anything, but the memories began to come to her one after another. She was worried because Zhao Heng did not follow the original plot of the novel. The game indicated to Bai Chuan that Song Qian's data was unstable, and therefore unpredictable changes are possible. The detective hugged the beauty by the shoulders. He said that time had rolled back, like in a game when you die and start again. The guy's face became bright and kind again. His gaze looked at Shibaba with warmth. The ally was glad the lady was okay. The brown-haired woman was not as calm as the detective. She was just dead. That crazy Zhao Heng hit her with a car and then stabbed her right in the heart. Bai Chuan closed her eyes and folded her arms across her chest. The girl said that her heart still hurts. Saddened by what was happening, the detective began to ask for forgiveness from the future daughter-in-law of the Mo family. He needed to be more vigilant. The criminal is very self-confident and would definitely find a way to attack the beauty. Mo Xingsheng's lover also admitted her guilt. After all, the agent ordered her to stay at home and she went for a walk. The girl thought that she had always looked down on the heroes of the game. The beauty suddenly lived their feelings, joys, sorrows, fear of death. And because of her indifference and neglect, she died. With renewed vigor, Bai Chuan agreed to work together with Song Qian. Ling Mo's rival wanted the detective to bring Zhao Heng to justice, and did not allow him to harm innocent people. The agent asked if the brown-haired woman might have some kind of clue, to which she answered positively with an unshakable look. The lady said that the killer chose a girl named Zhao Zhao as a victim. She works as a florist nearby. The crime scene is the Hongsheng Hotel. This should happen on the day of Bai Chuan's death. The brown-haired woman thought that the criminal must have attacked the florist, but for some reason she became his target. The girl agreed that the plot had changed too much. The blonde had an idea. He asked if Mo Xingsheng's fiancé had met a lady holding a box. She was a girl of average height. The blue-eyed brown-haired woman nodded affirmatively. The detective said that it was Zhao Zhao. Supposedly the villain was following her but met Bai Chuan. The killer changed his mind and began to pursue Shibaba. Everything began to make sense. The first time Song Qian felt like he was being watched was when the florist brought a sweater, and Ling Mo accidentally became his target. He wanted to kill her, but the allies intervened. But the agent was at a loss. The guy wanted to know how Bai Chuan found out about Zhao Heng's next target. Song stood thoughtfully in the middle of the room. He tried to understand how the heroine could know about Han's plans. The detective did not believe in intuition or such coincidences. It seemed to him that Bai was hiding something. In the end, he directly asked the girl how she knew the criminal so well. After all, this was not the first time the young lady showed awareness. And although Bai Chuan explained that she received tips from the mission, the detective found it difficult to believe her. Then the girl reminded Song of the strong connection between Shen and Madame Mo, who was hurt. She believed that in order to get closer to Xingsheng, she must first resolve the issue with Zhao Heng. The detective agreed with the young lady. However, in his heart, he believed that the mission's help could not always save Bai Chuan. The girl noticed this mistrust and constraint. She understood that the detective could not be the same after the resurrections that had occurred, and blamed herself for her carelessness. Deciding to change the topic, Bai decided to find out how Song knew Yu Zhao Zhao. Only now did she understand who the stars in the jar were intended for. The heroine was very persistent. She was determined to find out the nature of the relationship between Miss Yu and Song. However, he denied everything in confusion. Bai looked tenderly into Song's eyes, saying that Miss Yu was quite sweet, and most likely in love with the courageous hero. But if she had been more attentive, she would have noticed how embarrassed and timid the detective was looking at her. In the end, Song Qian turned away offended, refusing to explain anything. He was greatly hurt by the girl's words and reminded her of the mission and tasks. And Bai Chuan, with her cheeks pink from embarrassment, imagined what a hero detective in love might look like. It seemed to her that he was truly in love. The young lady continued to flirt with the timid hero. She decided to take a closer look at what kind of girls the detective liked and whether he had found someone to his liking. But he only refused. Bai even jokingly tried to hit Song and said that she didn't like him either, although she considered herself very good, despite her curiosity. The bickering went further and further. Now the detective had calmed down and had fun. He enjoyed teasing the girl. Then Bai Chuan decided to teach a lesson to the arrogant man who was teasing her. She swung but suddenly tripped very awkwardly on the carpet. One awkward movement, and now the girl has already fallen into the involuntary embrace of the hero. This shocked both of them quite a bit. But even when they were too close to each other, the two continued to argue. Bai wanted to know the truth and was tired of doubts. The detective was afraid that the beauty would hurt herself. They were so close, their hair mixed together and their eyes looking at each other. It seemed that the girl finally understood something about the courageous hero. But the romantic moment suddenly ended. Confused, Song Qian could only ask Bai to be more careful in the future. She just turned away embarrassed. Suddenly the elevator bell rang. Both froze in surprise. With fear, the girl exclaimed that it must be Mo Xingsheng who came to make peace. Out of the blue, Bai Chuan started pushing Song under the bed, wanting to hide him from Shen. She herself did not understand why she acted as if she had been caught red-handed. Worried, the girl ran out of the room. She rushed to Shen saying how much she missed him. However, he was unusually sad and tried to say something about Lin Mo. Then Bai decided to take Xingsheng outside. This stage of the mission was successfully completed, and all that remained was to resolve the issue with Zhao Heng. During the investigation, it was decided to place Miss Yu in Detective Song's house so that she would be under police protection. Curious, Bai Chuan decided to find out what Yu Zhao liked so much about Detective Song. She herself considered him somewhat arrogant and callous, but Miss Yu was clearly fascinated. Embarrassed, the little girl told Bai Chuan how Song Qian had come in very handy a few months ago. Her father had a heart attack and things could have ended badly. Fortunately, the hero was nearby. He literally carried Miss Yu's poor father to the hospital on himself. It may have saved his life. After listening to this romantic story, Bai Chuan realized that Detective Song was incredibly lucky in love affairs. Seeing Song appearing on the doorstep with a bottle of cola, our heroine suddenly became thoughtful. She began to feel that catching the criminal was not as important to Song Qian as being close to Miss Yu. Yu Zhao herself was very frightened by the threat hanging over her. And the fact that nothing happened in a month and a half only worried the girl even more. Bai Chuan sincerely sympathized with Miss Yu and tried to calm her down. But Bai was also alarmed by the delay and tried to find a way out. Our brave heroine suggested taking the initiative by provoking the criminal. This should have spurred him to action. Detective Song immediately realized that Bai was proposing to set a trap for Heng. This made Yu Zhao very scared. The girl understood that this kind of provocation could be deadly. Realizing what exactly Bai Chuan was proposing, Detective Song thought for a moment. Pulling himself together, Song Qian invited the brave girl to discuss the plan over a bottle of cola. His worried gaze met her trusting eyes. A difficult evening lay ahead. The detective was the first to hand Coke to our heroine. Seeing this, Bai immediately realized that this is why the hero is still lonely. She decided to help him. Bai walked up to Miss Yu, who was standing timidly, and handed her the bottle. There was clearly mutual understanding between the girls. The heroine began to reason. It turned out that Zhao Heng had not yet been caught because he was very attentive and did not leave evidence. Bai Chuan understood that it was easier before. Pieces of the criminal's skin and the murder weapon were found. This helped the investigation. But now the murder has not yet taken place. Then the heroine suggested going straight to the hotel and pushing the villain to commit a crime. However, Song angrily rejected the idea due to the death threat. Meanwhile, listening to all this, poor Miss Yu was completely confused. Bai and the detective had to tell her that they were just joking. The heroes puzzled over a solution to this problem. They were looking for at least some way. Suddenly, Detective Song had an idea. He hinted at the existence of important evidence. 2 days later, Sintandi Square was flooded with endless rain. The streets were empty. Only a lone figure was visible under a large umbrella. A tall, slender, dark-haired girl in a protective mask walked straight through the puddles. It was Bai Chuan. In her hands, she carried a business folder with papers, carefully covering it from the rain. Suddenly, a breathless beauty ran past, covering her hair with a briefcase. Staggering, she pushed by a little. No one seemed to notice anything. But literally in a second, a miniature listening device dropped into the pocket of the heroine's cloak. Bai gave no sign that anything had happened. Only her pupils widened in surprise for a moment. The girl walked away across the square. She told an invisible interlocutor through the earpiece that she had important evidence. These were cigarette butts that allowed for a DNA test. Bai also said that she was going to hand over a report that would allow charges to be brought. It was he who was in the folder she was carrying in her hands. Meanwhile, in a rented office in Xintiandi Square, a dark-haired man sat in front of his laptop. He had large headphones on his head. Suddenly, in a conversation, he heard that the latest evidence would not allow the criminal to escape. His eyes flashed with anger. Shocked, he remembered that he had indeed been careless months ago. Then, while disposing of the body, he allowed himself to smoke a few cigarettes and did not destroy the evidence in a hurry. In rage, the criminal slammed his fist on the table. He understood that the available evidence posed a real threat to him. It occurred to him that the evidence should be stolen. Taking large binoculars, he went to the window, peering into the rain. There was a trap to beware. At these moments, a thin figure under a large umbrella was just crossing the square. Bai, and it was she, was afraid that her appearance could threaten her with death. Through binoculars, the criminal saw a policeman approaching the girl. Apparently, the girl didn't like it at all. Police Captain Liang Xiang asked the girl to give him the report contained in the folder. All this, cold with horror, was observed by Zhao Heng through binoculars. Bai Chuan resisted with all her might. She did not want to give the police what Detective Song had worked long and hard on. The policeman threatened and demanded to comply. Suddenly, the girl shouted a demand. She wanted $1 million for this report. Without allowing the police captain to come to his senses, she turned around and walked away, demanding that he stop pursuing her. The disgruntled captain walked away empty-handed. Han watched the scene through his binoculars through the window. He realized that the girl and the policeman did not agree on the price. This should have been considered. An insidious thought came into his head. The criminal decided to deal with all the problems at once, to kill the girl and take possession of the evidence. Meanwhile, the system informed the retreating Bai Chuan that she should be extremely careful. Zhao Heng was extremely excited and ready for impulsive actions. Finally, the attacker made a terrible decision. Holding a huge knife in his hand, he silently approached the girl. The brave heroine did not see the criminal. However, she was ready for his appearance. The girl coughed slightly to check the audibility in the earphone. With a sharp movement, Zhao Heng rushed towards the girl, pointing a knife at her. His eyes exuded rage. He wanted to send her straight to hell. Suddenly, Bai Chuan turned around sharply. With huge blue eyes, she looked straight into the soul of the villain. Suddenly, the knife slipped out of the villain's hands. The body shook, pierced by an electric discharge. It was Detective Song who used the stun gun. A minute later, Bai was already looking at the criminal thrown to the ground. He was held tightly by Song Qian, but even he was waiting for help. The girl took the stun gun from the detective's hands and brought it to Han's neck. A wave of pain ran through him again. A minute later, 2 undercover detectives dressed in civilian clothes arrived. Song saw them in time and stopped Bai Chuan. He didn't want the girl to be considered too vindictive. The heroine shuddered and came to her senses. She could only thank the detective. He reminded the girl that this was just his job. The police officers approached and thanked the detective for his help and cooperation. Now they could pick up a criminal who could no longer escape. The next moment, handcuffs clicked loudly on his hands. There was nothing more to be afraid of. The police were ready to take the villain away. But Detective Song reminded them that there was almost no evidence. The cigarette butts were just bait. The real evidence had to be found in Han's computer. Luckily, Song noticed something. He saw the criminal hide the laptop behind a plant. You should have looked at the administration desk. Hearing this, Bai Chuan grabbed the detective's arm and dragged him to the counter. She wanted to find evidence right away. The girl was glad that their plan was a success. She was beginning to like this romantic game. Song Qian fumbled for the plant. There really was a laptop in a case. The detective took it out and tried to turn it on. The heroes bent over the computer impatiently. The blue screen came to life, but the system required you to enter a password. Detective Song was visibly disappointed. However, the policeman calmed him down. It was necessary to take the laptop to the technical department. They probably could have decrypted the password there. Suddenly, Bai Chuan moved closer and leaned over the laptop. Her fingers flew over the keyboard. There were clicks of keys. The system has been unlocked. A list appeared on the screen. These were Zhao Heng's crime plans. The detective looked at the girl in surprise. Confusion shone in his eyes. He asked how Bai knew the password. The girl hesitated. Shibaba mentally reproached herself for not learning from her own mistakes. That last time I barely got out of it. She was visibly embarrassed, and giggling she said that she just guessed. Song looked at her inquisitively. He didn't really believe in such guesses. There was clearly some kind of secret here. And more than anything else, the detective wanted to solve it. Sometime later at Liang Xiang's house, Detective Song was talking with the captain. They discussed Zhao Heng's case. The men were sitting on the sofa, holding joysticks in their hands. They decided to relax a little by playing a video game. The captain promised Song not to raise the issue of bait. Liang Xiang was also interested in Song's relationship with Miss Yu. It seemed to him that Song was avoiding the girl. Detective Song replied that there was no problem with Yu Zhao Zhao. What worried him most was Bai Chuan. He considered her a real problem and was clearly upset. Everything had to be thought through. Meanwhile, Bai Chuan was talking to Miss Yu on the steps of the detective's house. Yu was about to leave and was holding a large suitcase in her hands. The girls didn't want to leave. They have already become friends. Our heroine even decided to help Miss Yu. She promised to report the return of Detective Song. After breaking up with Yu, Bai Chuan continued to think about the detective and the girl. She decided to use the hero's embarrassment to her advantage. Suddenly the doorbell rang. Bai shuddered. She thought that Miss Yu had forgotten something. However, when she opened the door, she saw Mo Xingsheng on the threshold. The girl was surprised. She clearly didn't expect to see him here. Bai realized that because of the threat of the criminal, she had completely forgotten about the main character, Shen. But now he stood in front of her on the threshold, and he asked for forgiveness for not understanding everything correctly. The heroine was annoyed by his appearance. She wanted to change the settings of the system and the main character. She was offended by Shen's mistrust. She even invited him to break up. However, the system message explained that Shen, as the main character, is rich, handsome, and attached to Bai. The girl was very upset by the guy's empty promises, and wealth didn't matter at all. Xingsheng saw Bai's hesitation and asked her forgiveness again. He convinced the girl that he would never let her down again. Again and again the boy appealed to her kindness. Then the incredible happened. Shen took Bai's hand and began to hit his cheeks with it. Loud slaps were heard. Xingsheng's cheeks turned red from the slaps. Bai Chuan was surprised. She did not expect such a strong desire to be with her from Shen. However, she was still not ready to forgive the guy. Suddenly the heroine saw a new message from the mission. She was told to increase Mo Xingsheng's likability in order to earn extra points. Then the girl gave up. Bai Chuan invited Shen to come in. A minute later he was sitting comfortably on the sofa. The girl stood opposite looking at him. Shen still asked to forgive him. Then Bai decided to play a little. She brought ice and pretended that she never blamed Shen for anything. The girl also inquired about Madame Mo's condition. The heroine handed the ice pack to Shen. Then he caught her hand and pulled her towards him. A minute later, Bai was already in the guy's arms. He hugged her tenderly and said that he was ready to do anything for forgiveness. The girl was amazed. Xingsheng behaved like the hero of the best novels. He was flawless. But Bai didn't want Shen to do anything for her. Most of all, she wanted peace. The guy was frankly annoying her. Suddenly, Shen gently took the girl's hands. Looking into her eyes, he asked for a date. Bai was surprised, and the young man prayed for a magical night together. The heroine was surprised. Thoughts were swarming in my head. She wanted to refuse, but she needed to get points. Shen noticed Bai Chuan's hesitation. He became completely sad. Seeing this, Bai promised him a date. She sent the guy to get ready. Shen became cheerful and looked forward to the meeting. Bai asked to surprise her. Slamming the door, the girl thought. From reading novels, she knew that many bosses take advantage of their subordinates. The girl thought that according to the plot, this could happen to her. She needed to destroy the system. The heroine realized that she would have to ruin everything, and for this she needed Detective Song. Meanwhile, the game continued in Captain Liang Xiang's apartment. Xiang was constantly winning, but Song was unlucky. Suddenly, the phone rang. Hearing Bai's voice, the detective tensed. He was sure that the girl would talk about Miss Yu. He didn't want that at all. He was surprised to learn that this was not why Bai was calling. Song became nervous and asked to talk about the problem. Bai Chuan said that she had to go on a date with Mo Xingsheng the day after tomorrow. This was necessary to improve Shen's relationship with her. This way she could get more points. Song didn't understand anything. He suggested that the girl simply complete the task and wanted to return to the game. But Bai did not calm down. She told the detective she was afraid of being used. The girl asked to secretly monitor the date and prevent violence. Song was sure that she was not in danger. Bai was desperate when she realized that the detective did not want to help her. She wanted to say something else, but fell silent at the last moment. Song noticed this. Without looking up from the console, he decided to ask Bai in more detail. However, she had already passed out. There were beeps coming from the receiver. Captain Liang Xiang heard the bell and realized that it was Bai Chuan. He thought the girl was in trouble again. But Song did not want to discuss the conversation and suggested playing further. The policeman fell silent but looked at Song carefully. He saw in the detective's face that something was bothering him. It was strange. The game continued. However, after 5 minutes, Song could not stand it. He threw the joystick aside and turned to the captain. The detective suggested that an event would soon be planned at one of the restaurants. He needed to know everything about this restaurant. He asked Liang Xiang to help with this. The captain did not understand at first, and decided that Song was working on the case of a faceless killer. But the detective explained that the matter was personal. He was clearly embarrassed. On the appointed day, a limousine arrived at Bai Chuan's house. The driver handed the girl a dress prepared for this evening. He was waiting for the heroine below. When the car arrived, Bai got out. The girl was dazzling. The sparkling white open dress emphasized her fragile shoulders. The short hem showed off her long, slender legs. Bai saw that she was brought to an amusement park. Even though it was the most popular, it was now empty. The girl thought that Shen had reserved the entire park for the proposal. She walked slowly along the park path illuminated by lanterns. She came across a man in a bear costume in a tuxedo with a bow tie. He handed her a beautiful rose. The girl was embarrassed and thanked him. She was incredibly beautiful at that moment. The bear affectionately stroked her head. Bai felt something familiar. She looked at him carefully. Suddenly the man took off the bear's head. Surprised, Bai saw Detective Song's face. He was sad and focused. The girl's eyes widened in amazement. The last thing she expected was to meet a detective here. She had already forgotten that she asked for help with her date. Chuan rushed to hug the animated bear when she found out who was wearing the costume. A man standing at a distance could not understand what was happening to the staff, and so everything was organized, but they still showed initiative. Mo Xingsheng coughed deliberately, thus making his presence known. Song, in a suit, convinced himself not to pay attention. After all, he had to leave a little dignity for the main character. The detective in the bear costume was petting the girl on the head, just like a baby. And he said that he would already go. She agreed to let him go so as not to arouse unnecessary suspicion. Chuan gently took her hand by her lover. He kissed gallantly and said that his heart was like a rose that bloomed at the sight of her. The girl was surprised by such attention. She agreed and answered casually that the flowers were very beautiful. And I thought that Mo Xinan was so passionate, and she couldn't understand why she felt so awkward. And Detective Song took off his life-size puppet suit. Still keeping his head away from him, the blonde thought for a moment. Shen handed the girl a bouquet of soft pink flowers. He said that these 11 roses were a symbol of a whole life. The detective watching this thought that events were developing quite quickly. And he believed that he was not mistaken when he decided to come here. Mo Xingsheng stretched out his lips and was about to kiss the girl, but she shielded his face from her with her hand. He asked what was wrong. The guy said that Chuan was so shy, and he thought it was very cute. The groom assured that if she kept looking at her feet all the time, she would miss the whole fairy tale world. The guy snapped his fingers, and then, as if by magic, a carriage harnessed to a white horse appeared. The noble animal clattered its horseshoes on the stone surface of the road. Shen extended his hand invitingly. He invited the girl, calling her his princess, to explore the castle with her. Bai Chua placed her hand in his. She voiced her consent to the groom's proposal. In that castle, the prince and princess will live happily together. The girl thought it was a wonderful fairy tale world. I asked myself if it was true that only in fairy tales are heroines loved like treasures. The guy asked Chuan what she was thinking about. She replied that it simply seemed unreal to her. The girl convinced herself that it was all just a game. And she really hoped that if she one day returned to the real world, there would be someone who would treat her the same way. Shen called his beloved stupid, that she called it unreal. And he assured that if she just wanted a fairy tale, he would give it to her. The guy brought his face close to Chuan's ear, and he told his princess that he was all hers. The girl asked herself if she should have pushed him away, but then she reminded herself about the points for the mission. She began to behave somehow strangely, trying to control her impulse. Detective Song watched the couple through the carriage window. He angrily stated that they again had close contact. But then a pair of white horses that were pulling the carriage suddenly reared up, emitting a loud neigh. The gift carriage tilts a lot backwards. The blonde subsequently began to apologize. He justified himself that there was a large stone ahead that he wanted to go around, and he asked the passengers if everything was okay with them. Shen touched the back of his head. Our heroine thought that Song Qian was amazing. After all, he appeared everywhere and did an excellent job. Mo Xingsheng was surprised. but the girl assured that everything was fine and asked to continue the trip. The girl touched and stroked the groom's head. She asked if he was okay, and she thanked him for holding her. Shen insisted that it was just a bruise, and he considered it his duty to protect her. Bei Chuan thanked her groom for tonight. The guy replied that this was just the beginning of their date. Xingchen said that the fairy tale may end, but his love will never end. Our heroine thought that she was taking back her words and emotions. After all, such an attitude only leads to a feeling of shame for other people's actions. The girl asked where they would go now. Shen assured that this carriage would take them to the next place that would surprise her, and he claimed that she would find out when she was already there. The detective in the role of coachman sat on the reins. He thought that it didn't matter what kind of surprises Mo Xingsheng was talking about, and he believed that everything was only under the detective's control. The couple got out of the carriage. The guy led his companion by the arm along the red carpet. Bei Chuan sighed and groaned at what an extraordinary surprise it was. At the same time, her eyes became completely round. In the light of the moon and stars, a luxurious yacht stood on the water, rhythmically rocking on the waves. Shen asked his companion if she liked it. He said that he had actually long wanted to go on a trip with her to admire the view of the river. The girl answered that she liked it. Baba wondered how she could increase Mo Xingsheng's sympathy. And did his attitude towards her change? She assumed that something was going to happen. The guy invited Chuan to come on board. Without hesitation, she placed the crayfish into his outstretched palm. Detective Song watched as the couple disappeared from view. They were greeted by staff at the door, bowing to the gentleman. Porin thought that he would need to find a way to get there. The blonde ran as fast as he could, trying to get between the guards. But the guy in black glasses grabbed the detective tightly by the shoulder, and he asked what he was like. Song replied, smiling, that he was an employee of the amusement park, that he had just brought Mr. Mo and Miss Bai by carriage, and he said with a sigh that his stomach was twisting. The security guy looked at the carriage. The blonde continued to ask, insisting that he needed to go to the toilet. But the guard was categorical. He assured that the gentleman and his lady could get on the liner. Song began to shed tears and chewed the handkerchief with his teeth, demonstrating the need to let it pass. He asked the man if he would really stand and watch him wet his pants right there. The security guard took the phone and raised it to his ear and said that he would call Mr. Mo. The blonde asked him not to do this. Song said that he did not want to disturb Mr. Mo's rest. He assured that he was already feeling better, and he said that he would take care of himself. The blonde man walked away, waving to the guard. He said that he was very kind, and he smiled joyfully. Song concluded that he had just nearly overturned the carriage, ruining Shen's plans. And the guard, if he had shown a little more initiative, would not have suspected him. Now we had to come up with another way. The detective watched as the ship set sail. He realized that a private jet was more inaccessible than a hotel, and he understood that Shibaba could be in danger. In his imagination, Song imagined a scene of Shen wooing the girl, making her compliments and lewd proposals. The blonde started screaming. He felt obliged to come up with something immediately. Meanwhile, Mo Xingsheng and Bai Chuan were having dinner on the deck of the liner under the open sky under the light of the stars. The lights of the city could be seen in the distance, creating an urban landscape. The girl wondered if Song Qian was also here. She was well aware that getting onto a private plane was much more difficult than getting into an amusement park. Xingchen, seeing the tense expression on his companion's face, interpreted this in his own way. He asked if she really didn't like it on the ship, or if the steak was tough and tasteless. Chuan replied that she just thought that the surprise he was talking about was something more than a cruise ship trip. The guy sighed heavily. He said that the bride knew him very well, and he called her to go with him to the bow of the liner. Chuan admired the night sky. The sound of an explosion was heard, and fireworks flashed in the sky. The couple held hands and enjoyed the spectacle in the night sky. The companion's eyes widened in surprise. She couldn't help exclaiming, and her companion thought that Chuan had always been beautiful. But lately it seemed to him every time he saw her, as if she was a little different, but more charming. Mo Xingsheng hugged his companion. He said that it was cold here and was worried that she would catch a cold. The girl thought displeasedly that he would then say that it was windy outside and suggest returning to the cabin. From the shore, Detective Song watched as the ship floated through the water, and the light was burning in its windows. He saw the same fireworks in the night sky. He told himself that while he was here inhaling the cold breeze, they were enjoying. The blonde clenched his fists tightly. He said that he would not allow Shen to do this, and he assured that as a detective he had many more ways. The phone the girl left there on the table rang. "This is Song Qian's call." Chuan pulled the guy away from her, paying attention to the sound of the call. When our heroine took the device in her hands, she asked herself why the detective was calling her. She answered the call. The caller introduced himself as being from the management company, and he said that the pipes were leaking in her bathroom again. I asked if she was aware of that. Song Qian was definitely up to something. There was a conversation on the phone about a water leak in the beauty's apartment. The voice on the other end asked to solve this problem immediately. The girl asked if it was urgent, because she was not at home now. In response, she heard that the ceiling in his apartment was already completely wet and she should hurry up. The guy in love watched silently. Bai Chuan replied that she would try to return as soon as possible, and she asked her to tell Uncle Van not to worry. She was ready to fix everything. Standing on the shore in the cool darkness, the detective rejoiced. He was able to find a way out of this situation. The partner said that he would be waiting for Miss Bai. The alarmed young man wanted to rush to help his beloved. "I was just about to say that I am always ready to take care of her." The lady interrupted him. "I dared to remind you that I don't want to always rely on my loved one for everything." Madame Mo's son was quite upset. He respectfully accepted her decision, but he allowed me to notice that he was always there and asked for the opportunity to take the beauty home. The meeting had to be interrupted. The car rushed through the empty night streets. Only the headlights illuminated the road. Bai Chuan was lost in her thoughts. The girl regretted the unfinished task, but being on the liner, in her opinion, was really risky. I was thinking about how to increase Xingsheng's sympathy. Suddenly, I had to come back to reality. The lady was greatly alarmed and surprised. She asked what happened down the road. She pressed the button to open the car window. There was noise on the street. Someone was calling for help. Taking a closer look, the passenger noticed a familiar silhouette. It was Yu Zhao Zhao. A man was running after her. The heroine ordered the driver to stop the car immediately. He, in confusion, clarified what had happened. Bai Chuan replied that her friend was in danger. There was a sharp squeal of brakes. Mo Xingsheng pulled over to the side of the road. The lady ran out with lightning speed to the side where the criminal and his victim were. The florist girl screamed loudly and was scared. She was in the middle of the square, and she headed to her friend and her boyfriend, begging them for help. A lady in a beautiful fluffy dress suddenly caught her foot on a stone. She fell to the floor and was badly hurt. There were a lot of people around, and everyone was looking at this action. Song Qian's admirer was lying on the paving stones. Yu Jiao Jiao begged the villain to let her go. In return, she offered to take her wallet with money. The guys standing nearby burst out laughing. Why would they steal money from such a beauty? They invited the lady to come with them and have fun. One of them grabbed her hand tightly. At the same time, the wallet fell to the ground. His friend decided that it was complete luck. He will get both the money and the girl. Something whistled in the air. With all her might, Bai Chuan hit the bully in the face with the bat. The brown-haired woman looked very bold and strong. Then she called out to 3 more guys. These robbers took her friend in an unknown direction. The girl with the bat wanted to stop them. She stood in the lights of the night. Her beautiful features were illuminated by the large round moon. The lady was full of determination, and in an orderly tone she advised them to leave Zhao Zhao alone. The fragile girl, who was caught by these bandits, sought help from passers-by, and when she raised her tear-stained eyes up, she saw her savior. "This is Chuan," the young lady cried out. The bad guys were quite pleased that another beauty had arrived. This meant that the day was very successful for them. Their victim asked the brown-haired woman to leave quickly, because she could not cope with them alone. The girl, Shona, held the bat tightly in her tender hands. Bai thought to herself with a grin that physical strength points were no joke. The sweet lady raised the heavy weapon above her head with all her might, and she kissed the back of one of these villains. The robber was defeated. The force of the blow was so powerful that he flew straight across the entire alley. The girlfriend stood and looked after him in surprise. The hooligan's friend decided to stand up for his friend. With a deft movement of his hands, the guy in the black cap took a knife out of his pocket. But the driver of the car got ahead of him and hit him in the face. Mo Xingsheng turned to his beloved, and he ordered her to take the poor lady to safety. He asked the girls to wait for him. Bai Chuan obediently agreed. While they were talking, the attacking thugs came to their senses. The guys decided to act together to neutralize their enemy. The future daughter-in-law of the Mo family tried her best to help Zhao Zhao. Sean's girlfriend was visibly worried about this sweet lady. Therefore, I recommended getting out of this place quickly. Shibaba and her friend walked away. But suddenly a third hooligan blocked their path. He held the stone in his hand and recognized the heroine. The criminal expressed regret that he would have to disfigure such beauty. Madame Mo's son immediately engaged the thug. The young man was beside himself with anger. Sharply struck this big guy several times. Then he called out to his passion and gave instructions to run. The heroine froze motionless with fear. Her whole body seemed to be petrified. The girl could not move. The face was distorted from the understanding of inevitability. The bully was already very close. He only wanted revenge. All actions were aimed only at reprisal against the defenseless Lady Bai. The distraught man categorically said that it was too late. The florist girl and Mo Xingsheng forgot where they were for a second. Their eyes widened and their hearts sank in pain for Bai Chuan. The heroes realized that the inevitable would happen. The bully dealt a crushing blow, but the girl was able to dodge very quickly. Now it's easy for her to do this under the influence of physical strength points. It's the beauty's turn to show what she's capable of. She pulled herself together in an instant and demonstrated a long-forgotten fighting technique. The attacking guy got what he deserved. The bandit fell to his knees in unbearable pain. The man was in a misunderstanding. How can this fragile lady be so strong? And Bai Chuan continued to beat this bad guy. Mo Xingsheng's fiancée then turned to her friend. The lady asked how she was feeling, and she suggested taking a bat and throwing out all her anger on this scoundrel. Zhao Zhao took this stick in her hands. She blamed herself for being too scared and unable to help Lady Bai. But now she's ready to fix everything and show what she's capable of. The girl remembered how she deftly dealt with the brown-haired villain, and I thought that she could do something too. She believed in herself. The fragile beauty grabbed a bat and decided to follow the example of little sister Chuan. This girl at the moment was filled with anger and the desire to move forward. Time has stopped around. Zhao Zhao was like a warrior. She was ready to fight until her last breath. The young lady ran to her offender, not seeing anything in her way. It seems that at that moment he regretted that he was even born. Everything was like it was on fire. She struck blow after blow, no longer able to control herself. The criminal held his head and begged for mercy. It was Sean's task to deal with the remaining villains. He knew a few tricks and used them successfully on these guys. After some time, all three attacking enemies were lying on the ground. Having dealt with the villains, Mo Xingsheng rushed with all his might to his beloved. He enveloped her in his arms so tightly that the girl could not even move. Their dialogue had to be interrupted a bit. The brown-haired woman drew Sean's attention to her girlfriend. She too continued to beat her offender as hard as she could. The girl's enemy was like a small child. The brute simply cried unbearably and screamed for help. He already regretted 100 times that he had touched this sweet lady. The two lovers could not calm down this fighter in a skirt, and she kept shouting that it was better not to mess with women and never offend them. After everything had calmed down, the girls stood and had a nice conversation. Bai Chuan praised her friend and said that she was very proud of her. Madame Mo's son watched this picture all the time. He was mentally lost in his thoughts about the bride. Previously, Bai Chuan, in his understanding, was gentle and kind, and now unusually bright and lively. He thought that the future bride seemed weak, but in fact she had unbending tenacity. Thoughts flowed through his head in a continuous stream. The criminals were taken to the police station. The employee thanked them for their cooperation and promised to inform them of the final result as soon as possible. It was already past midnight outside. Zhao Zhao was getting ready to go home, but since it was already too late, the lovers could not let her go alone. They offered to take her by car. The passenger brought the car to its destination. The florist turned to Bai Chuan with gratitude for this evening and for saving her. She promised to definitely treat her new sister to something. Quiet, late at night, a black car was driving along a deserted road. Two tired people were sitting in it. Everyone thought about their own. To break the silence, Mo Xingsheng started talking. He noted what a romantic and exciting day they had. This is probably not the ending this handsome guy would have wanted. Bai Chuan gazed at the young man in love with her. Her gaze fell on the young man's hand. His hand was still bleeding from that fight. The girl asked to suddenly stop at a 24-hour pharmacy, ordering the driver to wait for her a little. While the lady was running errands, Sean noted that he still loved her very much. Despite the fact that the lady of his heart seemed completely different today, it did not matter to him. Bai Chuan asked the guy's hand to treat the wound. The driver replied that there was no need to worry, he was fine. But the girl showed concern, because he got hurt because of her. Mo Xingsheng replied that he did not know about his lady's bravery. When my mother told me that the beauty carried her on her back for 3 kilometers, he didn't believe it. But now he saw for himself what she was capable of. The young man hugged her gently by the shoulders. He asked his beloved, if she encounters trouble next time, she should not be so reckless, she should take care of her safety. The brown-haired woman laughed and jokingly said that she only did it because Shon was nearby. And he in turn replied that as long as he was around, she could do whatever she wanted. Their pleasant conversation was interrupted by the system, which announced that they had completed the next mission and received 100 points, and an additional 50 points for good deeds. The girl was lost in thought, but they were interrupted by Mo Xingsheng. He asked his beloved how they would solve the problem with the accident that happened at the beauty's house. She was taken aback by such a question, and she realized that because of the administration of justice, she completely forgot about Song Qian.